All right, we should be live. Let us just finish setting up. Good. I never say that way. Tell me. All right, everybody, how's it going? I wish I had slept more. Welcome, welcome, everybody. I hope everybody's having a spectacular day. Haley, thank you for the galaxy. Haley is a longtime friend. And a very wholesome human being, by the way. What music is that? It's I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys? Yeah. Or is it NSYNC? I always get those two confused. Yeah, it's by Backstreet Boys. I was always more of a Backstreet Boys fan than an NSYNC fan, even though NSYNC was in principle bigger. Did you know about Devil's Tower? I did, yeah. Why? Why is this on my phone? Okay, that's fine. Why is this? Why do I have that on my calendar? I just got a calendar announcement on my phone that it's one of my mom's friends' birthdays. I should probably let her know, actually, let her know that, you know, it's her friend's birthday. Anyway. All right, let's let people trickle in. Remember to click that like button, smash that subscribe button. Looks like we have our first guest. Is it just me or is it lagging hard? Yeah, actually, I'd like to know, is it lagging? Because I'm currently, yeah, I'd really like to know if it's lagging. If it is, let me know, and I can probably fix it. Okay, if it's good, then it's good. All right, great. All right, so we actually have a special guest, perhaps. Flatzoid, can you hear me? Flatzoid? All right, it looks like Flatzoid's not attending. He is a flat earther, but doesn't look like he wants to show his stripes, so we'll let him go. Let's bring up another guest. Bro, can you hear me? Fro? Oh, no, this is my fault. I'm so dumb. Flatzoid probably could have heard me, but I didn't have my audio on. Fro, can you hear me all right? Testing?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can, but your audio is currently being doubled.
What does that mean?
It means that you kind of sound like a robot, actually. But no worries. Do you believe in God?
You know, when you sing that song, I always think of Weird Al Yankovic. I sold it on eBay.
Ah, okay, good. It's some good taste you got there. Fro, do you believe in God?
I sadly do, yes.
Sadly? Why is that sad?
Yeah. Because I think it's a bad god. I think it's an evil god. I think it's not a good god.
I see. And why do you believe in it?
Why I'm afraid of it? Mostly because of the Bible.
Fro, you do have some weird audio issues right now. You're currently echoing. Let me see if I can actually reset your mic.
Okay.
Um,
Or I can try to. Is this better?
it is not better. Try a different mic.
Is this better?
Maybe?
Maybe, baby.
I mean, it's not great, but I guess we'll make do.
Okay.
So you believe in God because of the Bible. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay, and why should you believe that why do you believe that the Bible is true?
I think I got indoctrinated to believe it, maybe, with a combination of I'm just afraid of the biblical God. I'm not afraid of any other gods, so I'm not saying that it's a reasonable fear, but I believe in the God hell that the Bible is describing. I believe that God of the Bible is the most plausible God.
Well, Fro, do you think that that would be compelling to me?
No.
But the question is can you convince me?
Yeah, I guess I can't.
All right, well, Fro, I'm going to let you go. The audio is also really, really problematic, but thank you so much for being here. Now, we do have a special guest. Flatzoid, how's it going? Can you hear me all right?
Hey, good to see you, man.
So, you came on, you want to debate the existence of God? It's kind of surprising.
I am a Christian, and my channel is Christian-based.
All right. Yeah, so, why should I believe that a God exists?
Because the fact that nature can't exist out of its own.
Because nature can't exist on its own? Why should I believe that?
Because it would violate the first law of thermodynamics.
Ah, okay. Can you tell me what the first law of thermodynamics is?
Nothing can be created or destroyed, only transferred or changed, in simple terms.
So supposing that that's the case, it's not really the first law of thermodynamics, but supposing that that's the case, doesn't that mean that God creating the universe would be violating the first law of thermodynamics?
No, because God is supernatural. He's outside of natural law.
So it seems like the first law of thermodynamics would merely imply that the universe has always existed.
No, because
but nothing can be created or destroyed, right?
Yeah, and
so that means that it must have always existed.
And according to the first law, that means that nature created itself. Where did nature come from?
If it always existed, it didn't come from anywhere.
Okay, what's the prerequisites for just existing?
The prerequisites for existing? I don't think that existing has a prerequisite.
Of course it does. Let's, for instance, take a protocell. A protocell had to come from something, correct?
Protocells are an arrangement of matter, right? It's a particular arrangement of matter, and that arrangement of matter is perhaps new, but the stuff that makes up the matter, that stuff wasn't new. Those atoms, those molecules, those existed.
That's exactly it. And those are natural, you would agree?
The atoms and stuff? Yeah, absolutely.
So where did they come from?
Well, either they have always existed or they were made of something smaller. In this case, they're made of smaller things.
Yeah, which requires it to self-create. So to have
hold on, you keep saying that. How does that follow?
Because for it to exist, it had to be created, because it's natural.
Why?
According to the first law of thermodynamics, nothing can be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or transformed.
Yeah, so if something, if nothing was created, if nothing was created, that means that it must have always existed.
And to always exist requires it to be self-created, because it has to be a starting point.
No, things that always exist were never created.
How does nature always exist?
Every day there was a day before that.
But they can't exist without the matter being there, which is self-created already.
You keep saying that. Why should anybody believe that matter is self-created if it's always existed?
Because self-existence is an oxymoron.
I don't know what that
nature.
means. I don't know what
An
self-existence
oxymoron
means.
means it's a contradiction. In
What
terms.
does
So
self-create, or what does self-existence mean?
if it's always existed, it just existed out of self. With God,
I don't know
He
what do you
existed
mean
out of
existed
self.
out of self? What does that mean?
like for instance, God, He is the beginning and the end. There was
Well, that's the
nothing
claim.
before God.
You're trying to convince me
No.
that that's true.
No, I'm trying to show you the difference. So with supernatural, with Jesus, with God, He is the Alpha and Omega. So He is the beginning. There was nothing before Him. He could self-create. He is the one that created even
I don't think
himself
that anything
out
was
of
created.
existing.
I don't think that anything was created. I think that there's always been stuff. So there was
But
no
that's an
creation
oxymoron
necessary.
again,
Where's the oxymoron?
because you are a naturalist. You are a naturalist, correct?
Yeah, kinda, I guess.
So according to nature, has to abide by natural law.
Well, sure, but I suspect what you and I think of as natural law are probably very different.
Maybe there's an impulse. Or what? How do you understand the first law of thermodynamics according to natural law?
The first law of thermodynamics is just the statement that in a time translation invariant system, a time translation invariant closed system, rather, the energy of the system is fixed with time.
No, that's false. That's not the description of the first law of thermodynamics.
It's not what they teach you in high school, that's true, but that is the correct
that's a
description of
metaphysics.
conservation of energy.
Yeah, the conservation of energy comes after the first law of thermodynamics.
No, the first law of thermodynamics is a statement about conservation of energy.
No, because the conservation of energy requires the
You know, the
first law
conservation of energy, like that statement predates the statement of the first law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, but the first law is natural law. The conservation of
the
energy
first law is
requires
just the first law is just a
requires the
regularity that we
natural law.
observed. Like it's the first law only holds in time translation invariant systems.
Okay,
And
are you able to show me anything in observed reality that can violate the first law?
well, your version of the first law or my version of the first law?
My version, that is the first law. of
Well, your
thermodynamics.
version of the first law is really easy to violate. Your version says that matter can't be created or destroyed, but if you just go look at a banana emits positrons every 40 minutes or so. This is a type of potassium decay. And that positron will go find an electron, and then they'll both annihilate each other and disappear.
And that banana had to first get the energy to transform, correct?
Yeah, but the positron and the electron that disappears are examples of matter, and that matter no longer
That's
exists.
entropy. Yeah, it's part of entropy, and it
That's
doesn't
not
exist.
entropy.
Not
So
exist
we
anymore.
agree that
It
matter can be
transforms.
destroyed?
It transforms. It doesn't get destroyed.
Oh, no, the matter is destroyed. That matter no longer exists. There's no matter that it produces in this process.
Let's, for instance, take
What does it transform into? What does it transform into, Flatzoid?
Let's, for instance, take a decaying banana, as you put it. You throw that peel away, it decays, correct?
I'm not talking about like a rotting banana. I'm talking about radioactive
that's
decay of
material.
potassium in a banana.
Yeah, but the radioactive decay simply is not the transformation. Remember, it's running out of energy. So what happens
it's
is
not
the
running out of
transform of the
energy.
decay, the transform the decay from the
Do you
peel.
hold on? Do you
is
know
turning
what
into
radioactive
compost.
decay is?
Go ahead and educate me. What's radioactive?
Radioactive decay is a process in which some atoms, which are unstable, can emit
fission.
different kinds of matter, electrons, protons, rarely
They separate
neutrons, alpha particles, whatever. They can emit different kinds of matter and then transform into a different kind of atom. So in the case of potassium-40, you have potassium decaying into calcium, I want to say, or something like this. But in doing so, it gives off a type of matter called a positron. And that positron goes and it finds an electron, and then when they meet together, they both cease to exist. Argon,
and there's evidence of observing them
not,
cease to exist.
Sorry?
And there's evidence of observing them cease to exist.
Yeah, we can see the effect of the positron, and then we can see it not existing anymore.
What if it's just transformed into something we're not able to observe at the moment?
Oh, well, then you're not doing science.
No, science is basically based on what you can observe. So if you can't observe, it's not scientific.
You're right. So like
you
I
just
said, you're not doing
can't observe
science.
it. No, it's still science.
I thought you said it's
Because
based on what you can observe.
You're making an inference that that
Actually,
positron just
we
doesn't
do know
exist anymore.
where it goes. It becomes light, and light isn't matter.
Ah, so it does still exist. It doesn't get
Well,
destroyed.
no,
You
the
just-
matter
you
doesn't
don't
exist
just die.
anymore. Light is not matter.
But it's transformed into light. So therefore,
Right, so
it
the
doesn't
matter,
violate the
what,
first law.
so the first law of thermodynamics that you said is that matter can't be created or destroyed. Well, the matter is destroyed.
It doesn't. It's transformed into light.
I'm sorry, is light matter?
Is light energy? Is light
Is
energy?
light matter?
Not according to your rhetoric, no. But is it energy?
I wouldn't say it's energy, no. It has energy,
So
but
light doesn't have any
isn't energy.
But it has energy.
Sure.
So why doesn't it not transform into that energy of light?
Well, so the energy of the positron-electron annihilation does become the energy of the photons, but the matter, the electron, the positron matter, that ceases to exist.
Yeah, because it's transformed into light. As you
Okay,
said.
so we agree that your version of the first law of thermodynamics, that matter can't be
my
created or
version.
destroyed, is not correct. It's not true.
Would you be able to bring the definition up of the first law quickly?
I already gave you a definition. We were
No,
working
you
off
can
of
bring it up on
yours.
screen for everybody.
Yeah, you want
Because
to...
MIT says you're wrong.
Okay, I don't care what MIT says.
Well, actually, every university says you're wrong if you're telling me the first law, well, the definition I'm giving is wrong, because that's literally the definition of the first law of thermodynamics.
Here's the first law of... Actually, do you want... Let me show you something fun. Let me pull it up really quick.
By the way, I'm happy I made time to be able to debate you, man. Been waiting to do this for a while.
I believe you. Sorry, I'm just pulling something up really quick.
No stress, man.
Is this the wrong course? Maybe this one? Maybe here? Maybe here? Maybe here. Sorry, I'm looking for a very specific thing.
No stress, man.
Maybe here? I'm sure I wrote this down at some point. I promise this is worth it, if I can just find it.
Can I send you can I send links to you? Or
You can, but
Sure, I can
I
send you a
might not
link
be able to
again.
see them. Depends on where you send them.
I just put in the chat, the private chat.
Here we go. Okay, I found it. All right. I don't know if you can see this. So
do I have to go on YouTube to see it? Oh, there we go. It's showing.
there we go. So in fact, this is a set of lecture notes that I used when I was lecturing while I was a grad student. So this is what was taught at a university, actually. This is the first law of thermodynamics.
Conservation of, yes, used energy.
The first law of thermodynamics is that the change in energy is equal to the heat minus the work.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about energy can't be created or destroyed. It doesn't say anything about matter is always converted, not created or destroyed. It doesn't say anything about that. This is the first law of thermodynamics.
Would you do me a favor and quickly show that link I sent you?
I'd have to go find it.
I'll put it in the private chat.
On the
Private chat in the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me pull it up. Oh, you're using the chemistry first law? Oh yeah. This is the version. This is basically the same thing. Yeah, so here's the version that he just sent me. It's very similar.
Yeah,
can
it
see
is
it here.
basically similar, but look what it says.
So chemists use Q plus W instead of Q minus W, but that's fine. So this statement here, this is inaccurate. So this is true when systems are time translation invariant. It's called Noether's theorem. When systems are not time translation invariant, this statement is no longer true. The first law of thermodynamics no longer holds. But supposing for a moment that this was true, because this is the crux of your argument, and we can even grant this because it kind of destroys the argument that you're making. If this were true, if energy could not be created nor destroyed, then it would follow that energy has always existed.
No, it will go against E. Do you agree with E equals mc squared?
Sure.
So matter and energy are the same, one in the same, actually.
No,
in
the
different
M stands for mass, not matter.
It's transferable. E equals
No,
mc
those are
squared
not
says energy and
synonyms.
mass can be transliterated as one.
Yeah. So energy and mass, not energy and matter.
Yeah, mass. But mass is matter, correct?
No. Mass is a
So how do
property
you
of
have
matter.
mass without... Yeah, exactly. So you need matter for mass to exist.
Well, that's debatable. It depends on what you mean by matter. But no, matter is the stuff. Mass is a property of the stuff. The E stands for energy. The M stands for mass, not matter. But anyway, the point is, I don't see how you're getting out of this. If it says it can't be created or destroyed, then that means that it couldn't have had a beginning.
Exactly. So
If
your
it,
nature...
if it doesn't have a beginning, then it's always existed.
That means it couldn't have existed out of itself. The fact that
I don't know what that means. If something didn't begin and yet it exists, it means that it always existed.
Which goes against nature, because
Okay,
nature
what's the law?
cannot
What's
just
the law
exist.
that it violates? In what way does it go
The
against
first law.
nature?
The
Wait, the first law
says it
doesn't say that something can't always exist.
Yes, it does.
Oh, where does it say
Because
that?
nothing can be created. It has to take it out. I mean, let's do you believe in the Big Bang?
It says nothing. It says it can't be created. That doesn't mean that it can't always exist. It says created.
For something to exist, it has to be created, correct?
You surely don't want to say that.
I do.
God exists. Was God
Yes,
created?
he's self-created. God's not natural.
Wait,
It's not bound by natural
hold on.
laws.
You think that God can create itself?
Yes,
That means that God was around before God existed?
he is the beginning of time. Yes,
So God existed before God existed?
yes, he's the
Okay,
beginning
so
of
that
time.
means so
He's
okay, so you're
literally-
just affirming
he's literally-
contradictions.
Let me put it this way.
Before God existed, God didn't exist, but also before God existed, God did exist.
Before
Hence
God
a
existed,
contradiction.
there was nothing. No, before God existed, there was nothing. So
So
out
so
of God
things
existing,
can't
everything
create
came.
themselves. I thought you agreed on that.
Nature can't. God is not
So
bound
to
by
be clear,
natural law.
A, that's not a law of physics. That's like a law of logic. So this isn't like some nature versus supernatural thing. This is a law of logic. It's
Seems
not a
like
law
you're
of logic,
running
but it's
from-
derivable
seems like you're running
using
from
the
naturalism,
classical
man.
laws of logic.
Seems like you're running from naturalism.
What does this have to do with naturalism? You said that God created itself.
You're a
Do you want to?
naturalist.
Well, I mean,
You literally say
to a cer-
nature creates
to a certain extent, yeah.
always existed,
but the
therefore
point. So I think that the universe wasn't created. I think that the universe that there's never not been a universe. On the other hand, you think that God was created, but that God created itself. So why don't we run down an argument?
self-created.
Do you want to
But
run down an
remember,
argument?
You're missing the point. God's not based on natural law.
Do you want to run down an argument? We can run down an argument if you want.
Yeah. But
Okay,
like I'm
we'll-
saying, can
we'll
you
do
show
some-
me
we'll
any
do a formal argument.
observable thing in nature that shows
All right, so we
nature
have
just existed?
premise 1, God created himself. Premise 2, if a thing
God
is
self-created. Wait, no, that's exact. God self-existed, self-created.
so what does it
So
mean
he
to
didn't really
self-create?
self-create. He
What does
is
it
the
mean to
beginning. So in other-
self-create?
In God, everything came from. In other words, without God's
Wait,
existence,
so I'm
nothing
sorry.
would
So
happen.
do you think that everything needs to be created in order to exist?
Yes,
Okay, now what created God?
himself.
Okay, so you agree with premise 1. God created
He
himself.
he didn't really create himself as to
Okay,
be,
so
he
we
just
agree with premise 1.
existed out of
Premise 2,
himself. He
if a
existed out of
thing
himself.
is
Okay,
created,
no,
then
okay.
it did not exist before it was created. Do we agree with premise 2?
Nothing existed before God existed. Agreed.
If a thing is created, then it did not exist before it was created. Okay, premise 3.
Yes. Okay.
A thing cannot take actions if it does not exist. Do we agree?
That's an oxymoron. You can't have a thing not taking action if it doesn't exist. So that's literally just self-implodes itself.
You think that premise
Can't
3
have
is
an
false.
action without something. You can't have something that doesn't exist take an action.
If a thing does not exist, it cannot take an action. It's
Mm-hmm. So it's an
self-evidently
oxymoron.
true, right? Because it
You
doesn't
can't
exist. How
have
could it
the
take an
thing-
action?
Exactly. So it's an oxymoron. Don't
Okay,
even have
so
to
no,
put
this
in.
is an
That's what I'm telling you.
oxymoron. It's just obvious, right? Like
Yeah.
unicorns can't take actions because unicorns don't exist.
Maybe they haven't been discovered yet.
All right, so we agree on this.
Go on.
Premise
Yeah.
4, if a thing is created, it cannot take actions before it was created. That follows from, we can actually call this C1.
Yeah,
That follows
okay,
from
yeah,
P2 and P3.
Yes.
Okay,
It
premise
depends.
4.
It does depend though. If it's all this is based on nature though.
Premise 4, the creation of a thing requires an action before the thing is created.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Conclusion 2. Actually, this is conclusion 2 this follows from P1 and P2. God created himself, or God took an action before God was created.
Again, you typing God into naturalism. God's not a nature.
This has nothing to do with naturalism. We're not doing naturalism
It
at
is.
all. This follows from
Everything you're
premise
posting there is
premise 1 and
naturalism.
premise 4.
You know, the
God created
argument
himself, and the
is-
creation of a thing requires an action before the thing is created. Therefore, God took an action before God was created.
Okay, but let's put it this way:
Conclusion
Is God
3.
bound by natural law? Is God bound-
Conclusion 3. This follows from C1 and C2. God cannot. Sorry, this is so we have conclusion 3, a contradiction between C1 and C2. If a thing is created, it cannot take actions before it was created, but God took an action before God was created. So which of these premises do you disagree with?
Based on natural law? None of them.
No,
can-
just
based
which
on
of these premises do you
supernatural?
think is false?
None of them based on supernatural.
So premise 1 is true. God created himself in your worldview?
Yes.
Okay, premise 2 is true. If a thing is created, then it did not exist before it was created?
Yes.
Okay, so, and premise 3 is true. If a thing does not exist, it cannot take an action.
Mm-hmm.
Now, conclusion 1 follows from premise 2 and premise 3, so you can't reject conclusion 1. That follows via modus ponens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, premise 4, you agree. The creation of a thing requires an action before the thing is created.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if we take premise 1 and premise 4, God created himself, and the creation of a thing requires an action before the thing is created, that means that God took an action, that's the action here, before God was created.
Yeah. His action
So
was himself
we have
created.
we have that on the one hand, if a thing is created, which God is, it cannot take actions before it was created. On the other hand, we say that God took an action before God was created. So it seems like we
That's
have
why
a
I said
direct
it's-
contradiction. So is it
Yeah, the
flat out, do you
contradiction is you
assert
the
do you
contradiction
assert true
is-
contradictions?
No, the contradiction is you're trying to. I was telling you you can't type them because it's an oxymoron. Now you're going against what I was saying, and I'm telling you, God.
Wait, but you
is
agreed with all the
supernatural. He's
premises.
the
Or
way.
do you reject one of the
No.
premises?
I agree with it based on the point that it would substantiate with supernaturalists. You, on the other hand, are running away from because you
Sorry,
believe
none
in
of this has to do with
naturalism.
naturalism or supernaturalism. This is
You
just
are a
logic.
naturalist.
This is just
You are a
logic.
naturalist. You
So,
believe you came from nothing.
I may very well be a naturalist, and maybe my worldview is wrong, but we just demonstrated deductively that your worldview is contradictory.
No, you are literally ignoring everything I'm saying. You are taking naturalistic thinking view and putting
Where's
it into
the naturalism in the
And by the way,
which
none of this
premise
would
is
be contradictory
naturalistic
based
here?
on quantum physics. Based on
Which
quantum
I'm
physics,
sorry,
none of this would
which
be-
premise here is naturalistic?
You are basing it on naturalistic.
Okay, which one?
viewpoints.
Which premise?
All of them.
Oh, okay. So which premise do you think is false then when you consider supernatural stuff?
None of them based on supernatural because supernatural is not bound by natural laws.
We're not talking about natural laws. We're talking about logical
We
laws.
are.
No, these aren't. There's no natural laws in any of these premises.
Why are you running away from this, man? Come on.
How are we running away from
You're
anything?
running
We're
as
just
far
talking
away
about
from this as
logic.
possible.
Are
You
we not talking about
believe
logic here?
You believe nature created everything we see today.
I don't think that nature created anything. I think that things have always been. I don't think that there
which
was ever
means it had
nothing.
to be okay, let's place it on you. If we put
No, I'm sorry.
P1,
I'm not going to let you pivot.
nature
Do you
existed-
reject?
No, we
Do you
can
reject
exactly
premise
the
one?
same. We can do
Do you reject premise
God
one?
God self-existed.
Okay,
Which
now
means he self-created.
Okay, so you agree with premise one. You agree with premise two.
If a thing is created, it did not exist before it was created. Correct.
Okay, you agree with premise three.
If a thing does not exist, it cannot take action. Yes.
Okay, and therefore conclusion one follows, right?
No. If a thing is created, it cannot take action before it was created. You just literally took P3 and just typed it in again,
No, I took P2 and P3 and combined them.
which makes the same argument.
Okay,
But
so I'm glad you agree with
misunderstand-
conclusion one. I'm glad you agree with conclusion one. Great.
You're misunderstanding God.
This is modus
is the
ponens, by the way.
Okay, let's put it this way. If you have a impulse, it has a start, correct?
I don't know what you mean by an impulse.
Because you physics, you know what an impulse is.
Oh, you mean an impulse in like a force applied over time? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's got a start and it's got an end.
Yep.
Correct. So that start of that impulse would be, for instance, God is that impulse. At that impulse start, that's when God created himself.
Okay, so then
Understood?
what caused the impulse?
God.
So the impulse caused itself?
Yes. God
Okay,
self-created.
but we just agreed that if a thing is created, it cannot take actions before it was created. So how could it
But it's
take an
created on
action?
that I'm saying. It's
How could it take
created
an
on that
action
same-
creating itself
that
if it
action
didn't
exists
exist?
Because God is supernatural. He created everything from
supernatural,
the beginning.
supernatural. Like none of these premises say anything about whether or not
Okay.
it only applies to natural things or it only applies to supernatural things.
It does. I've got
These
another way
apply
of
to
putting it.
everything unless you reject some
no.
law of logic.
No, none of these apply.
Which
The way you
which
trying
of
to
these
place-
premises does not apply to God?
Okay, is the way you're trying to place naturalism onto it doesn't apply to God.
I'm not applying naturalism whatsoever. This argument is like Christians would make this argument to say that God can't create himself because Christians recognize that God didn't create himself. At least smart Christians do.
Based on the premises you're writing here, it's worded as create itself. That's what I'm telling you, okay?
You agreed with it.
He self-existed. Yeah, but because he self-existed, that means he was self-created.
Okay, so then God created
On that
himself.
premise,
You
based
would
on the
agree.
wording
So
you
you
write.
believe that God created himself. That's not the Christian doctrine.
Okay. Yes, it literally is. Okay.
It literally
Can you
isn't.
show me in scripture? Can you show me in the scripture where it doesn't? Where it says it doesn't? Because in scripture it says, "I am the Alpha and Omega." That means it's the beginning of the end. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and God was the Word, and Word was with God. So that means in the beginning,
Hold
the
on.
first
Hold
of
on. Hold on.
existence, God is. Everything was created by
Okay,
God,
I found it.
for God.
You should learn your Bible.
I
This
know my
Isaiah
Bible,
40.
much better than you.
This Isaiah
Okay,
40:28. It says, "The Lord is the everlasting God." Does
Yes.
everlasting mean that it had a beginning?
Yes, he's the
Wait,
Alpha and
I'm
Omega,
sorry.
the beginning and the end.
sorry,
You just told me to
everlasting?
know my Bible, and you don't even know what that means.
I'm sorry, everlasting means that it had a beginning?
Yes.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure everlasting means always existed.
Yes, God has always existed because he is.
If God
the
has always
beginning.
existed, then God doesn't have a beginning.
He is the beginning and the end.
Do you know what the word beginning means?
Yes, Bereshit.
Well, no, that means like in the beginning of. But I'm asking, what do you think the English word beginning means?
Starting point.
Okay, so if there's a starting point, then that means that there was not the thing before the starting point, right?
What do you mean?
So if something is beginning, did it exist before the beginning?
Again, there was nothing before God started. Before
Okay,
God
agreed.
Was
So
there,
that means that
So in
you
other words,
believe
God
that there was a
always
time when
existed.
God didn't exist. That there was
So-
a state
no.
of affairs where there
No.
was nothing.
no, it doesn't.
So
God
what does
is
it
the
mean?
beginning
So-
of existence.
Okay.
In other words,
How
God
long
is
ago
the
do you
beginning
how
of
long ago do you
existence.
think God began to exist?
Whenever he existed, I have no idea.
Okay, so are you telling me that God has an age?
Yes, he would have an age because he's the beginning.
So you think that God has an age?
He would because he is the beginning. But then again, age is just a man-made concept.
How familiar are you with the Catholic Church?
Very familiar. That's why.
Do you understand
actually
that
think
right now
against
you
the
would be
Catholic
burnt
Church.
at the stake alive if you were living in Europe 600 years ago?
Yes, and do you know the Catholic Church are not Christians?
Well, I mean, that's up for debate. But the point is like every single Christian alive would disagree with you when you said
No,
that
it's not true.
God
The
has
Bible
an
agrees with you.
age.
Yes, he would have an age by logic.
Okay, brother. Okay.
But again, like I was telling you, age as well is just a man-made concept, though.
Would you say that age is just a number?
Yes, a reference to number.
Okay.
But if
yeah,
you would
so,
go to Revelations 1 verse 8 quickly, please, for your audience.
Sorry, why is this relevant?
Revelations 1 verse 8.
Okay. Also, do you know the name of the book? What is it called?
Revelation 1 verse
Okay,
8.
yeah. Revelation 1-8. It's the I am the Alpha, I am the Omega bit.
The beginning and the end.
Well, I mean,
It says there, the beginning and the end.
no, it says the Alpha and the Omega, right?
And
it
the
doesn't say the
beginning
beginning.
and Revelation 1 verse 8. Go to Revelation.
This is
1
Revelation 1-8. Oh, sorry, you can't see it.
There we go.
It doesn't say and the beginning and the end. It says I am the Alpha and the Omega.
New International Version, please change it to KJV because it's the most accurate to the original manuscript. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's not. That's really bad for
Yes,
you.
it is.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No,
This is really
no, it
bad.
literally is.
Also, here's the KJV version. It also doesn't
when
say the begin. Oh, it
There,
does
I'm the
say
beginning and the
it
ending.
does say that. So do you want to go look at the Greek?
That is from the Greek.
Do you want to go look at the Greek?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
You're literally out of way of
Revelation
your league when it comes to Bible
1:8
stuff, man.
Greek, and we can just translate it. Here's the Greek text.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bible Hub. This is just parallel Greek. So we have ego emi to alpha kai no to or kaito o, which is omega. Arche kai telos lege kyrios. Beginning and end. Oh no. Okay, I will absolutely grant that it says that. Why doesn't the NJV, the NS, or
Because
sorry, I should have been
NIV
looking
is
at the
like-
NSRV.
Because NIV is a very inaccurate.
I should have been looking
translation.
at the NSRV. Where's the NSRV? I don't want this. I don't want the. Here we go.
Translation is not going to help you, man.
No. I mean, I agree. You were absolutely right. I was looking at a bad translation. I don't know why it didn't include that, but it is the way that it is. So sure, it says that I am the beginning and the end. So you're telling me then that God has an age.
Yes, according to man's logical thinking.
Okay, God has an age. And so why should I believe that? Why should I believe that that's true?
Well, it doesn't go against natural law, which your nature.
So you
had to
think that? So
you
you
are
think that
claiming- you are
God
claiming
has
when-
not always
Sorry.
existed?
He's from the beginning existence. So there was nothing before God existed,
Okay, so why did God start existing?
because he is the beginning. That means if everything from beginning ever existed, that is God that had beginning.
No, I think you're confused. Look, so there was nothing. What caused God to start existing?
No. There was never nothing.
Oh, I thought you
There
said that there
was
was.
only
I
a
thought you said that
beginning.
before God there was
No,
nothing.
no. You are trying to place it before God.
You
There
said
was never
before
nothing.
God. Those
It
were your
was
words.
There was no. You got to think of it this way. There was only a beginning.
So if there was a beginning, was there anything before that?
No, because the
So-
beginning is the beginning.
Okay, so you're telling me that there is a thing that caused itself?
Yes, God caused himself because
Okay.
he is not bound by
And
natural
you don't
law.
see any issue with this argument that shows that things cannot
No.
cause themselves.
Quantum
You just don't see
physics-
any issues with this.
Quantum physics actually shows God to be able to exist in multiple.
Oh, does it? Can
Instances at the
you
same
elaborate
time.
on that for me,
Yeah.
please? Explain
Based
that.
on quantum physics. Goes based on quantum physics because you got entanglement, correct?
Uh-huh.
So he's able to self-exist on one end and be existing in another time dimension or whatever at exactly the same time.
Sorry,
They are linked.
can you explain to little old me what entanglement is?
It's just a linkage. Think of it as a long rope.
Entanglement is like
if
a
something
long
happens
rope.
on the, I'm trying to put it in very basic terms, and think
Mhm.
of the one side, the person takes an action on that rope. On the other
Mhm.
side of the rope that's connected, the action is received. And,
So you're telling me that we
dupli-
can communicate using quantum entanglement?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just trying to give.
But if
you
I pull
a-
on one end of the rope, the other person, like I could pull on one end of the rope in like, Morse code.
Maybe. But the point I'm making is God is the beginning and the end. So if you think of it as based on quantum physics, God is the beginning of the rope, he's the end of the rope as well. And everything between is all of us.
So how
in-
does
in
that mean
between.
that God can create himself?
Easy, because he self existed. Before him there was nothing.
No, I'm still trying to understand how that means God can create himself. I don't see
Because
how
he's
quantum
supernatural.
entanglement helps
You're
here.
still running away from the fact you need nature to have self-existed out of nothing, which goes against natural law. Where I
Word
don't
salad says
have
what?
that issue because God is supernatural. He's the one who created the natural law. He's the one who created nature to be bound by natural law.
Yeah, so I
natural
don't
law
see
is
where natural
way
law is.
inferior.
I don't see where natural law is
Nature is-
involved anywhere in any of these premises.
Nature is inferior to
Where is nature
supernatural.
present in any of these premises?
I never said it was.
So we agree that these premises apply to God.
Yes, because God is supernatural. He's able
So
to
these
do
premises
standard
all apply to
things that would
God,
be
and so we're just affirming contradictions now?
Okay, let me place it this way. Would these premises be illogical to nature?
Yeah, sure. This would show that nature can't create itself as
Right.
well.
Great. So nature has to abide by laws that would not fit the premises you stuck on screen.
No, so this argument applies equal. I could replace God with nature, and it would work just as well. Or
Okay,
I
let's
could
try
replace
that.
it with the universe, say. Nature is weird and personified. But and so all this shows is that things can't create themselves. Now, I don't think that the
Nature
universe
can't.
created itself. I think that the universe has always existed. You think that God created itself.
So in the beginning
which
of
is
the
a weird
universe.
statement.
No,
Sorry?
I'm saying, so in the beginning of the universe.
I don't think there was
That's
a beginning of the universe.
Well, to exist, there has to be a beginning.
Prove it.
Okay. How am I going to prove to exist there has to be a beginning?
Uh-huh.
You were formed in your mother's womb.
You're giving me examples. I want a proof.
You sitting in front of me, we're talking, so that means you were a sperm that fertilized your mom's egg.
You're giving me
And
examples. I
therefore you
want a
were born.
proof.
That is a proof.
Examples are proof.
Without the fertilization, you would not exist right now.
That's proof that I have a
was a
beginning.
beginning.
That's not proof that
Yeah,
everything
you
has a
asked for
beginning.
proof. That's observable, but is that observable proof?
It's proof that I have a beginning. It's not proof that the universe has a beginning.
Okay. Can you show? Okay, let's for instance take the CMB background. You agree with the CMB background according to your belief system?
Do you agree with the CMB background?
No, I'm a flat earther. I'm asking you based on your belief system.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Does it have a beginning point?
The CMB?
Yeah.
The CMB is like an image, so it's hard to say that it had a beginning.
Yes,
now
it
the
does.
the image that we see was produced like, you know, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, but like it's not like a thing, it's just like an image, you know.
Which is based on the start of the universe.
No.
Yes, the CMB is
No,
based on the start of the universe, the expansion.
Are you confused? Do you think that the Big Bang was the start of the universe?
No, I never said the Big Bang. I said CMB. The CMB is
Well,
the
the
picture
CMB,
of the
nobody thinks the
expansion
CMB is the start of the universe.
Where is the CMB starting point?
The CMB doesn't really have a starting point. The CMB
big lie.
the CMB became visible like 13.8-ish billion years ago.
And how can you prove that?
Well, look, you were working under my framework to begin with. If you want like to talk about how we can construct and how we can demonstrate that the CMB exists, we'd first probably have to prove that space exists, and you don't want to have that conversation.
Oh, well, I love having a conversation on space existing, but I mean that's probably another debate because the debate right now is topic.
You're right, it is.
You think nature existed from nothing, so therefore
No, I
you
don't
are
think nature
violating
existed from
natural
nothing.
laws.
Don't strawman me.
It literally to exist, always exist means there had to be a starting point. By
That's literally the
definition-
opposite of what to exist means, or to always
To
exist.
always
Here, we can do
exist
this. We
means
can
it
do another
always
one.
had to have a point of
Premise one.
existence.
If a thing has a beginning, then there is something, or then it has not existed into the past eternally.
There's no past before the beginning.
If a
That's,
thing has a
again,
beginning,
false
then it has
statement. No,
not
that's a false
existed into the
statement.
past eternally. Do we agree with premise
No,
one?
that's a false premise.
So if
because
a
the
thing
beginning
has
is
a
the start,
beginning,
there's no-
that so you're telling me that
there's
a
no
thing can
past.
have a beginning while also having existed into the past eternally?
There is nothing before the beginning. So yours is a false premise. There's no past.
Are you telling me, so maybe we're just talking past each other. When I say that a thing didn't have a beginning, what I mean, when I say that the universe didn't have a beginning, what I mean is that every day has a day before that.
And that day before that came from?
And it came from the day before
Something.
that, which came from the
Okay,
day before that,
what-
which came
so
from the
what
day
about
before
the
that,
first
and so
day?
on.
What about the first day?
There wasn't a first day. That's my view.
Of course, it was the first day because
Prove
a
it.
beginning, you saying everything existed because it always existed. So before that point,
There is
of
no
always
before.
existing
There's no
requires
before
a point
always.
of start. It
There's no
always
before
requires-
always.
There's always a point of origin. There's
Do you
always a point
understand that
of
there's no before always? Okay, actually, Flatzoid,
Yes,
let's
I
just
know
work
there's
out an
no before
example.
always. I
So-
agree.
so-
There is no before always.
Flatzoid,
point of the
what's the
beginning-
first number?
According to what scale?
Just the first integer, let's
1.
say.
Okay, 1. 0.
Oh, but
This is
0 is
0.
before 1.
Yeah, but
Is
0
0
is
the first?
the beginning.
Is 0 the first integer?
Yes.
Oh, but -1 is before 0.
Like I told you, what scale? You see, now you're straw manning what I'm saying.
I'm talking about
That's what I'm saying.
integers.
Hmm?
I'm talking
Sorry,
about
say again?
integers. Do you
Okay,
know
but
what an
those-
integer is?
Yeah, but you're literally using this now as a red herring. I'm
It's not a
asking
red
you
herring.
again,
I'm
You
using it to
understand- yes,
demonstrate
it
my
is.
point.
because mathematics isn't actually reality. Mathematics is just a language to describe.
My view
Now-
is that the universe's timeline can be mapped on to the integers.
Yeah, but that's infinite regress,
Okay,
and infinite regress is illogical
prove it.
because you're just going to keep going further and further and further and further. That's why I said
Yeah.
when it comes to
Okay.
always
Prove it.
existing,
Prove that
that's always
prove that there's
existing.
something illogical.
Always existing
Uh-huh.
requires, as that point starts of always existing, there has to be a point at the start of always existing. Otherwise, it
Why?
is literally because that is how it works. You cannot
Oh, okay.
have
So
always.
premise. Hold on.
You
Hold
cannot
on.
have an always
Let's do
without
this.
a point of
Premise 1:
starting.
there has to be a beginning
Yes.
of always existing. Premise 2: because that's how it works. Conclusion:
that's not what I
the
said.
universe has a beginning. Is that the argument?
No.
Oh, okay. Care to clarify?
P1. There has to be a beginning of always existing. Correct.
Okay.
Not
What's
because
P2?
that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. So then,
That's
what's the argument for
logical
that?
Deduction.
What's
That's
the argument?
logical
What's
deduction.
premise 2?
That's the logical deduction.
What's premise 2?
The logical deduction, because everything observed.
The logical deduction.
Yes.
That, and then what's the conclusion?
Because everything observed always has a beginning point.
Everything observed always has a beginning point. Now we'll just check. What inference rule does this argument follow? Do you happen to know?
Infinite
Because
regress.
I'm
so I
not
said
familiar
it's
with
gonna
it.
be- Now, what's the reason I brought infinite regress off is because you're just going to keep going further and further back.
Oh,
no matter
so
how back
is
you
this the
go.
argument that you're using? Is this your valid and sound argument that you're using?
This is debunking your infinite regress because it puts a point.
So what's
at
the
the
inference
start of
rule that we
existence.
use from premise 1 and premise 2 to get to conclusion?
Because you can only observe what we observe, and based on
Wait, can you
everything
answer my question?
observed-
What's the inference rule? Is it modus ponens? Somebody said it. Is it modus dummens?
Yes, the modus ponens is.
Yes,
is
modus
arguing-
ponens. Do you know what modus ponens is?
Yes, just
Okay.
like the way you don't understand the black swan argument.
Can you explain to
anyway-
me what modus ponens is, please? Just really quick. I don't remember.
If A, therefore B. If not B, therefore not A. Okay. Now
no,
let's
no,
go
that's
on.
modus
Okay.
tollens.
Tollens. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Well,
It,
the
well, it does,
argument
it
I'm
does
trying
matter.
to
So
make-
so is this argument modus ponens?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm trying to get you to
It's not.
actually stay on one argument, but you keep on
We're
running
trying
away
to.
from
We're
every
trying
single
to.
thing I'm saying.
You've
No,
made the
you're
claim that there
changing it.
has to be a beginning to the universe.
There has to.
I just need the
And that's
the
it.
proof.
Okay. Let me put it this way. Do you believe that time exists according to nature?
I don't know what you mean by according to nature. I believe that time exists.
So time does exist. Okay.
Yeah.
Does time exist to God?
I don't think that God is real.
Okay. According to the Christian faith, does time exist to God?
I don't think it.
No.
So
No.
I
God
think
is
most
timeless.
Christians would probably say that God doesn't experience time, but that God knows that time exists in some like
No,
lower
yeah.
level or something like this.
God created time. I would agree, but that God is timeless according to the Bible.
Yeah, that's probably
Okay,
well, I don't know
so
if that's according to the
he's-
Bible, but that's roughly modern
Okay.
Christian view.
Okay.
So-
So, let's say
So
God is
hold
not.
on.
So because
I'm sorry,
God
I'm
is
not going to let you
timeless,
pivot.
he's
You're
not bound by time.
I'm not going to let you pivot. You made the claim that there has to be a beginning of always existing, that the universe has to
Yes.
have had a beginning. And
Yes.
now you're talking about God for some reason. Where's the argument that the universe had to have a beginning?
God is the beginning.
Well, I don't think that God exists. So how is that going to be an argument that will be
Just
persuasive to me
yeah.
if you're trying to convince me that the universe had a beginning?
Okay. Let's put it on Occam's razor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's only two outcomes. here.
Occam's razor,
Either
yes, the flat
God-
earther's favorite talking point. Well-known
Either-
flat earther
either
tool.
God, either God is the beginning of everything, or nature is the beginning of everything. Which
That's a
one
false
would
dichotomy.
be- I agree,
Oh, okay. So why'd you give me a false dichotomy?
because I'm trying to point out how illogical your naturalistic view is.
So you just gave me a false, you just made a logical fallacy in order to point out that I'm being illogical?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So do you
Okay,
want
what's the
to
third
not
option
use a
then if you don't
logical
want to be a
fallacy and
false
actually
dichotomy?
make an argument
Okay.
rather than just
Okay.
being illogical?
Okay. Okay. Let's say, what would be the third argument if you don't want to be a false dichotomy? What would be
Yeah,
the third?
that nature has always existed, that nature doesn't have a beginning, for example.
That's the second. That's literally the second.
No, the second one is that nature has a beginning. That nature
does.
created itself was what you said, something like this.
Okay. You told me that you believe time exists.
Yep.
You believe that in nature time exists because you believe in the fourth dimension. So
I don't know what
obviously
you mean
time
by in nature. If you want to say like in the universe, sure.
nature, you believe in the fourth dimension. That's time.
Yeah, sure.
Time and space.
Yep.
Okay. So according to that,
Mhm.
there was a time when your nature started.
No, that doesn't
Yes.
follow. Oh, what's the
So then
argument for
you're
it?
throwing away time.
No, I just don't think time started. I think that time's always been.
Okay, this is the infinite regress I was talking about.
Okay, so what's the problem with an infinite regress?
You don't have an illogical foot to stand on. You're literally going against natural law. You're
What's
going
the
against
natural
all
law that it
logic.
violates? What's the logical
first law of thermodynamics.
contradiction? Can you give me anything rather than just asserting truisms?
The first law of thermodynamics.
The first law of thermodynamics says nothing about time having a beginning.
It does. You can't be
It
created
really
or
doesn't, and
destroyed.
people who are watching can go rewatch at the beginning of the video where we went over this. The first law of thermodynamics doesn't mention time at all.
So time doesn't have a start.
Yeah, I don't think time has a start.
Then how did we get the year 2025?
Well, all moments of time exist equally real, and so the year 2025 is one of those moments of time that exists in the infinite timeline.
So there was a time before something. So there was a start of time, so we could count, correct?
There was a start of. I don't think that there was a start of time.
But you just said there was a time that started.
There is a
because that's how we got to
timeline. There is
2025.
no so there is a timeline, much like the integers. There is an infinite number of integers, both negative and positive. Now, just because there's an infinite number of integers doesn't mean that the number 37 doesn't exist. The number 2025 still exists, even though there's an infinite number of integers before it.
I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
But you understand what you're literally throwing away your own argument by trying to say time doesn't have a start, but yet it has always existed. Yet we do have
those
time
two things
because
are
it
not.
had a
Those two things
starting
are
point. That's a contradiction.
equivalent. Time doesn't have a start, and time has always existed are equivalent statements.
No, look, there's only two ways you can take this. You can either take this based on supernaturalism, which is based what the Bible says with God, which is outside of nature. Or you can take naturalism, which requires natural laws to be bound. It's bound by natural laws, which has to be observable based on science.
Sure.
You would agree with that? So we can do the scientific
hold on.
method if
Actually,
you
no.
want
I'm
to.
sorry. That's not true. You can be a naturalist and not care about science at all.
Yeah, but you're a physicist, so obviously you abide by scientific method, correct?
I don't know what abide by the scientific method means. Like when I'm conducting
You
science,
follow
like
the
I use the
scientific
scientific
method.
method. When I'm talking
Yeah.
about philosophy, I don't use the scientific method because it's not applicable.
Yeah, philosophy and science are two different things. I agree, but you do get branches that they call the philosophy of science, though. Which
Yeah,
I also
sure.
disagree with.
So
But,
what's the
would you-
logical argument that shows that an infinite regress is impossible?
There's no actual scientific evidence that you can have.
I'm sorry.
infinite
What's the
regress.
logical argument that
That's
an
logic.
infinite regress is impossible?
It's not observable.
I'm sorry. What's the logical argument that an infinite regress is impossible?
It's not observable.
Oh, I'm sorry. You may have heard me saying, what is the physical argument that an infinite regress is impossible? But that wasn't what I
Observation
said.
is physical.
I said, what is the logical argument?
It's logical that it's not observable. It's
Sure,
also
that
logical
doesn't make it
and
impossible.
physical that it's not observable.
It doesn't make it impossible.
It literally does, because
Oh, so
you
wait a
now
minute,
have-
hold on. Just to be clear,
you
you're
want
saying
me
that
to
things
prove
that
a
are not
double negative.
to be clear,
You
you're saying
are
that things that are
pointing
not
out a fallacy
observable are
here.
impossible?
According to science, yes.
Oh, that's not true. Can you observe
Science
the number
is only
6?
observable. That's maths, that's not science.
Yeah, so are you saying according to science the number 6 doesn't exist?
Okay, give a hypothesis for 6, please.
What? You were the one
Give a
who made the
hypothesis
claim that
for 6.
according to science, if
you
something's
made
not
it. You
observable,
just
then it
told me
doesn't
this.
exist. Are you
No, you just made
confused?
this argument, not me. So can you give me a hypothesis for 6,
you-
please?
are
Because
you,
you're telling me
like-
6 is scientific.
Has your brain stopped functioning? Do I have to repeat
No, you're
myself?
going
Because
too
this is your
fast.
argument. Like you were the
No,
one who
you
said
literally-
you were the one who said that if something is not observable, then according to science, it's impossible. So I gave you an example of something that's not observable, the number 6, and therefore,
is
according to
observable.
your reasoning, it's impossible.
No,
scientifically.
number 6 is observable. I can draw number 6 now for you.
No, that's a
the
symbol,
point
not the
of you
number
saying-
6.
Again, I'm telling you have to separate math, the number 6, and observable reality, which is science. Okay, so the first
Yeah, so
step of
I'm
the
not
scientific
talking
method
about.
is
I'm not making a
observation.
scientific claim when I say that the universe has always existed. I'm making a philosophical claim.
Okay. Can we go then to the scientific method? Would that be fine? Because I saw you
No, I'm not
misunderstanding
gonna.
this
I'm
when
not
you
gonna have a
spoke the other
conversation about the
day.
scientific method with a flat earther.
Yeah, because I'm going to whip
don't
your
think
ass
it'll be
on it,
very
I
productive.
understand. No, because I'll whip your ass on it. I understand. Yeah, run.
Okay, you think so?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure. Yeah, so I'll ask again, because you've now dodged 4 times. What is the logical argument that shows that an infinite regress is impossible?
By not being able to observe infinite regress.
So it is your view that something is logically impossible if you can't observe it?
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone was blind, would it be reasonable for them to say it's logically impossible for the sun to exist?
No, because other people can observe it.
So are you telling me that whether it's observable is subjective? It depends on who's observing it?
Since when is it subjective? Anybody can observe the sun, correct?
Except blind people, I guess.
But other people can. So it's objective.
So-
it's a fact that the sun is
Okay, so let me
observed.
ask you this. If it's the case that every person on Earth went blind, would the sun start being logically impossible?
No, because people went
But
blind
nobody could
after they
observe
already
it.
observed the sun. You already said the sun was already there. People already observed because they had a starting point of being blind. So if someone already observed the sun, therefore it stays a
No,
fact.
nobody observed the sun. Everybody was blind.
No, you said everyone became blind.
Okay, no, this is a hypothetical. Imagine the case where everyone is blind
From when?
forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
So there's a starting point when people just existed. And
There's a
everyone was
starting
just
point of
blind.
people. Yeah, absolutely. People haven't always existed.
Ah, so infinite regress doesn't exist. Well done.
For people, do you know what the
I'm telling
difference
you
is
how
between
I'm
logical
using your own
possibility and
argument to show
physical
you how
possibility?
illogical your argument is.
Do you know what the difference is between logical possibility and physical possibility is?
No, tell me.
Oh, and you were up
The
here.
reason I'm asking you to tell me is because you literally are
Okay,
just
yeah.
making
So
my
a
point.
logical
So make
impossibility.
my point more, please tell me in your
So-
own words.
Yeah. So a logical impossibility is some proposition or some claim that is contradictory. It proposes a logical contradiction such that, say, an example would be like, the apple is red, and in the same sense, the apple is not red. That's a logical impossibility because a thing can't both be red and not red at the same time in the same way. A physical impossibility is merely something that is not possible according to the laws of physics. But for example, you can have things that are logically possible that are physically impossible.
Okay,
Do you understand, or do you want me to give an example?
I 100% agree. And the reason I'm trying to say, I wanted you to say is because, first of all, you do get red and green apples together. So you have
I'm
an
saying
apple that
red
is
and
red and
not
green.
red. Not red and green, red and not red in the
Okay,
same
not red.
sense.
So it's still the same because you do get yellow and red
No,
apples.
in
you
the
get green,
same
you
sense.
get brown
So
and
you
red,
cannot.
same
Okay.
thing.
So
Which
you
is
can play.
physical.
You can.
As well.
You can pick at the example if you want. I can give you a better example. We could say that that a shape cannot be both a circle and a square at the same time, or rather, a circle and not a circle at the same time.
I agree with that.
Okay, so that would be a logical impossibility. A physical
and a physical
impossibility would be something like, I don't know. You
It's still
can't.
the same argument.
A physical impossibility would be something like two electrons that are both negatively charged cannot attract each other via the electrostatic force. That's
Okay,
a physical
but
impossibility because there's a
your
law of
logical
physics that it violates.
Even your logical possibility is also a physical impossibility.
There's nothing physical involved with a circle being not a circle. This is not physics, this is mathematics, which is based on logic. It has nothing to do with natural law.
Of course it does, everything. Because if it's not a circle, it's not a circle physically.
We're not talking about a physical object, we're talking about an abstract object.
Which you draw.
No, it's an abstract object. A drawing is a representation of an abstract object.
Imagination.
Yeah, you can talk about your imagination, sure. You can
But
conceptualize
is that
things.
also falling onto literal physical terms as well?
I think that you're confused.
No, I'm just trying to show you again, your arguments are based on illogical deductions.
So to
I'm
be clear,
letting you make arguments
hold on, we'll do this again.
correct you on your
We'll pull an
illogical
Ian.
deduction.
We'll pull in Ian. Premise 1, your arguments are based on illogical deductions. Premise 2, conclusion, there are no infinite regresses. Sound right?
Okay, let's see. Your argument is based on illogical deductions where there are no infinite regresses. No, that's literally not what I said, but nice trying to insult me as you've been doing this whole time.
I mean, to be fair,
By the way, I just want to point out to the
doesn't-
audience, this is why the guy doesn't debate me, actually, because he gets his ass whipped
I'm
every
happy.
time. he opens his
What are
mouth.
we doing right now? I don't think that you understand what logical deductions are. You don't know the difference between physical and logical impossibilities. You don't understand what it means for something to have an eternal
Okay,
past.
is it
You don't
physically
understand
possible
what
for a
quantum
circle to
mechanics
not
is,
be a
yet you try to
circle?
invoke it to prove God's existence. I think that you've just been blown out in every respect in this
Okay,
conversation.
okay.
You should go back
Let
to
me put
debating
it
flat Earth, because there at least you can pretend that you know what's going on. This is a conversation that you're not ready for.
Let me ask you a last question before you try to kick me. Is it physically impossible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle?
Is it physically impossible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle? Yeah, it doesn't even make sense to talk about it being physically impossible. Circles aren't physical
Right.
things.
That
You
was
can
the
talk about
argument. Well done.
circles aren't physical things. That's not even a question that makes sense.
Great. So the way we place this in the argument of nature.
Oh, so we
versus
agree
God,
that you don't understand the difference between physical and conceptual, or
gosh.
physical and abstract.
I literally just I literally steel-manned your own argument and showed you by
Wait a minute.
steel-manning your argument
So
how it's
do you know what a
physical
steel
and
man is?
illogical.
Because a steel man means that you should be representing my argument in a way that I agree is a correct representation of my argument. However, I do
did.
not agree that that was a correct representation of my argument. So it wasn't a steel
Okay.
man.
Can I debunk that quickly? Do you
Okay.
disagree that a circle can be a circle without being a circle?
Do I disagree that a circle can be a circle? So a circle cannot be a circle if it's not a circle.
Do you agree with me?
I don't even understand the sentence that you said.
In other words, it can't be a circle if it's not a circle.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So you agree with me. So my steel man was correct. Well done.
Well, your steel man was about physical impossibility. And
And I used
then you
that.
rephrased it without
man.
invoking physical
You
possibility.
just agreed with me. You just agreed
I
with
agree
me. And
with
then
you.
I used that
I
steel man
agreed
to
with
show
you
you how
when you-
illogical the argument is.
To be clear, your original argument, and we can replay it if you want, your original argument invoked physical possibility, and that's not an accurate representation of my argument. However, the argument that you then, or the proposition you then just put forward, does not invoke physical impossibility, and so I'm happy to agree with it, because then we can talk about logical impossibility rather than physical possibility. Sorry, physical impossibility.
Okay.
So you
No, sure.
changed your argument, shifted the goalpost, and then claimed that you won.
No, I didn't. I've been giving the same argument this whole time.
Do you want to
So,
replay it? We can
now,
replay
based
it.
on the circle, based on your circle syllogism,
Hold on, we're gonna replay
can-
it.
this whole time. Can
Do you wanna
so
replay
based on
it?
your
We can replay
Doesn't
your
debate me, actually,
your
because he
illogical
gets his ass
syllogism
whipped.
can
What are we doing right now?
Nature
I don't
always
think that you
exists.
I'm sorry, Flatzoid, I have to mute you for a sec. I'm going to replay the clip. Logical impossibility. Understand? No, it's an abstract object. A draw.
argument
A-
and red
No,
apples
in the
get green
same
and
sense.
brown
So
and
you,
red.
if you want
physical impossible.
each other via the electrostatic force.
Okay,
That's a
but
physical
even-
impossibility
even-
because
even
there's a
your-
logic. This is
not to
abstract object.
not-
Based on logic. It has nothing to do with natural
Of
law.
course it does everything, because if it's not a circle, it's not a circle physically.
We're not talking about a physical object. We're talking about an abstract.
And
To be
I'm
clear,
letting you take what's are based
hold on.
in
Let's your argument premise.
Wow, I'm doing this all. Bait me.
You under is quantum is going on. Is it physically impossible about it being circle?
For a circle to be a...
Here we go.
Let me ask you a last question before you try to kick me. Is it physically impossible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle?
Oh, what's going on? This is a conversation that you're not ready for.
Let me ask you a last question before you try to kick me. Is it physically impossible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle?
Okay. Is it physically impossible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle? Okay. Do you know is my circle can be a circle representation of my argument. However, I do not agree that that was a correct representation of my argument. So it wasn't a steel man.
Can I debunk that quickly? Do you disagree that a circle can be a circle without being a circle?
I rest my case. The second time around, he didn't say the word physically impossible or physically possible.
I literally can't hear what you're playing.
Oh.
He's ignoring me.
That's rough for you. Well, everybody else could hear it. And so everybody else heard that the first time you said, is it physically possible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle? And then the second time when you claimed to be representing the exact same argument, you said, is it possible for a circle to be a circle without being a circle? You added
semantics.
The word physically. These are different.
So semantics.
Oh,
okay, so that's all you got. Okay, sorry, I forgot to say physical, but it's still semantics.
So if you added the word physical, I wouldn't agree.
Even if I leave physical out, it's still the same argument, so it doesn't change. No,
it's very different because now we can talk about many different kinds of possibility, not just physical possibility.
But anyway, Dr. Blitz, can we organize a proper time that we can have an actual debate sometime? Because I really got to go, man. But I appreciate the discussion.
I mean, I thought that we had a pretty normal debate for about an hour here, but okay. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Flatzoid. Oh, Flatzoid, before you go, just a real quick question. Really quick question, if you don't mind. What was the deal with you accusing Lisbeth of being the neighborhood bike?
I didn't. I
definitely have the video of that.
Yeah, you can play it because McToon take out the whole discussion. Remember, things are taken out of context.
Have you ever heard
I didn't say Lisbeth was the village bicycle. I was talking in context to Freemason rituals.
Okay, so let's
what the guys would want her to be there
for the audience really quick.
Now,
Yeah, we get it.
Skiing.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Have you ever heard of the saying before, village bicycle?
Yeah, Toon bike.
Yep.
Where I'm from, it's the Toon bike.
Local pusher.
Well, we've officially reached.
I don't know, man. Seems pretty problematic. But I think that we're actually going to let you go here. Thanks for being here, Flatzoid. Just got to mark that down. Yeah, so Lisbeth was a flat earther who went to Antarctica for the final experiment. And because she was a woman and because she was, open to data, the flat earth community turned on her and, started just being like wildly sexist towards her, including Flatzoid, which is like disgusting. Anyway, we have some super chats to read. So let's read some super chats. Scrolling. From Aaron with the $10. Thank you so much, Aaron. Blitz, didn't you know if I assert supernatural logic doesn't apply to me? Yeah, that's how it works. Apparently, but he didn't want to admit that. From Orion Cooper with the $5. This is for being this patient with Flatzoid, aka Keith, one of the most annoying flat earthers ever. Great job. Yeah, he is. Doxon Greenlight sends $5. Why is everybody typoing his name in the same way? Facatzoid? Okay. Facatzoid is a low-tier Bible flirt from Oakley's cult. If you want to laugh, ask him what the hypotenuse of a triangle is. Oh, that's a good question. I should have done that. Thank you for the $5, though. RP sent a galaxy on TikTok. Thank you, RP. I appreciate you. Peter Hegwood sent a woolly hat. I wish I had a woolly hat. Actually, I do. It's just in the closet. Demigo sends 220 TRY. Don't know what that is. It's about $5. Saying nothing can't exist. That's why anything else has to. Therefore, God is nothing, which is the potential of the rest of the things. Everything exists inside nothing, which is God. I don't really know what that means, but I appreciate the donation regardless. AG sent a whale. AG, thank you. And also, welcome. Dick Hauer sent $20 for love your stuff. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the $20, Dick Hauer. Brian sends $5 to say Flatzoid has been caught intentionally falsifying data in tests and models multiple times, deletes frames and builds things intentionally out of scale. I believe that. In fact, I think I've even seen this. Demigo sends another 220 TRY. Nothing can't exist, that's why anything... Oh, that's the same one. Hate Stairs, I hate Stairs too, sends $5 to say Flatzoid is a fraud and a liar, not worth the air to talk to him. Oh, but it is, because content is free. Aaron Leitz sends again $10. Thank you, Aaron. We do have a lot of super chats. We'll try to get through them quickly. Blitz, quote, you don't have any logic to stand on, but logic doesn't apply to me because supernatural. Heads I win, tails you lose. Yeah. Fred Dan says the color is the Flurf Flatzoid Facatzoid. Oh, I guess that's just part of his name that he uses sometimes. That's 20 Swedish kroners. Thank you. Icy Spin sends $2. Ask him where the South Pole is. Yeah, we could have gotten into a Flat Earth conversation, but it would have just been a train wreck. We'll do Flat Earth tomorrow. Duke of Shaska says no you. Yeah, that's how that went. Garba Gaiman sends 5 Canuck bucks. The future is unobservable, therefore it does not exist. True. That you'd probably agree with that, though, to be honest. Alien Psychic sends $20. He's a flat earther. That's easy to prove wrong by observation. You just need a tall building. The sun sets or rises in a line that moves as the sun moves beyond the horizon. Yeah, so flat earthers just say nuh-uh to that. That's just a thing. And Orion Cooper sends $5 in order to try to lie about having his email available for the final experiment. He accidentally mistyped his email as Facatzoid in his haste. That's really funny. That is exceptional. And then Chase Martin Physics sends $10. As a theoretical physics PhD student with research in string theory, M theory, your PhD should be in patience. I have no idea how you do this without pulling the hair out. So if you're a PhD student, you will eventually have the opportunity, I hope, to teach undergraduates, and that will teach you patience. That's what happened to me. And then Stevie B sends 20 British pounds. Ask Flatzoid which way is south. Well, it's too late now, but I appreciate it. It's funny, though. All right, let's bring up another guest. We have... there are a few people that we're actually specifically waiting for today. They go by the name, one of them is Casey Seaborn, and the other one is Servant Nick. Hopefully one of them will show up, but it looks like neither of them have shown up yet. So, let us move on to our next guest, Dina.
Hello.
Dina, how's it going?
It's going great. You've got to clear something up for me.
Yeah, sure.
In chemistry,
Dina,
I learned...
have we spoken before?
Yes, we have. Energy cannot
Dina,
be created nor destroyed.
You came on to the Unapologetic show the other day, didn't you?
Yes.
That's right,
And
that's right. And we did have to let you go.
honestly.
So, look, if you don't disagree, this is not the place to be. Sorry, Dina.
Hello.
JV, how's it going?
Everything's going great. I just like your content because I'm a undergraduate mathematics student, so
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
so
you
I'm
being
sorry.
here. I hope you enjoy.
Huh?
I hope you enjoy.
I enjoy it every time.
Yeah.
I
Take
like
care.
the thing that you did before. I just remember my my discrete mathematics class.
Yeah.
It was so
It's
funny.
a useful tool. It's a useful tool. No, so we know that Dina doesn't disagree. I talked to her last time and she didn't disagree. Sorry, I just have to check something really quick. Sorry. One moment. There's an annoying person who's currently... Okay, good. Good. Okay, so nobody can see this guy who's currently flashing himself in my video ninja call. Anyway, let's bring on the next guest. Let's bring on Mustafa. Nobody can see him, nobody can hear him. So he's kind of wasting his time. Mustafa, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So I disagree with your idea that the universe can partake in like infinite regress.
Oh, okay. Why do you think so?
I believe that like all existing material forms can be described to like a series of causal logical changes. No.
Okay, so to be clear, and just to be clear, do you believe that a God exists? Just so I make sure that we're talking about the subject matter.
I believe a God exists, but not the normal notion.
That's fine. So you think that everything that exists, and sorry, you were saying?
I believe a God exists in an abstract plane, not in a material plane.
Sure. And so, but you were saying about the infinite regress.
Yeah, I don't believe any material form can become a part of an infinite regress.
Why not?
Because any material, I mean, we could just do proof by example, really.
Proof by example is not a way of proving things, by the way.
No, it's like to refute it. Like if you're saying infinite regress is possible, I can show you an example where we have defined like a non-possible form for it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Like a basic example would probably be your anatomy. You know, you can reduce your anatomy to just a series of like genomic bases. And those genomic bases can then be deduced to like a series of events that happen to have such like nitrogen in the base, for example. So you could practically do that for any material concept, you know. So infinite regress, I don't think is possible for any material concepts.
I don't see how the example you gave shows that that's the case.
Because there is a defined start for it.
Well,
you know,
not really. So I am made of stuff, and to be clear, that's not a causal connection. That's like a mereological connection. But fine, I was caused by my parents, say. So I have a beginning, and the beginning was my parents. But then you can ask, well, where did my parents come from? Well, they had a beginning. They came from their parents, and so on. So the question is I agree. You can find things that do have a start in like a mereological sense. How does that show that there has to be a start to everything?
It doesn't show there has to be a start to everything. It has to be a start to any material concept.
How does that follow?
We can just reduce everything to one universal start.
How does that follow?
We can reduce literally anything to one universal start, which would ideally be the Big Bang here.
Wait, how does it follow that you can reduce everything to a single starting point?
Okay, say that. Okay, we pick up anything. Let's say a rock and a finger. A rock is made of such substance, and so is a finger, that we can reduce it to a single point where we have the Big Bang.
How do you know that the Big Bang was the start? Why couldn't there be stuff before that?
Because it's the only material start we can observe.
To be clear, we can't observe the Big Bang directly. We can observe its after effects.
Yeah, but
so how do you know that there wasn't stuff before the Big Bang?
Because it's not observable.
Are we just saying that if you can't observe something, then therefore it's impossible to exist?
It's not impossible to exist, but it cannot be rationally you cannot rationally.
Your claim was that infinite regresses are impossible.
Yeah, it rationally is not possible.
Rationally not being possible means that there is some proof that it's not possible, not just that we don't have evidence that it's true.
No, if infinite regress was possible, that means that it just isn't rationally possible for any material idea. You cannot just infinitely reduce any, like there's no infinite regression.
You just keep saying the thing that you're saying. Like, what's the argument? Do we have to pull up the notepad?
Yeah, let's pull up.
Okay, so what's the argument?
So my argument is that any material form can be reduced to a singular point in a causal chain or a mereological chain.
Okay. Well, so to be clear, you don't want mereological chain because mereological chains don't imply that an infinite regress is impossible. A causal infinite regress is impossible, for example.
Okay, we'll just leave causal chain.
Okay, so what's premise 2?
Premise 2 is that don't believe God exists in this material plane at all. I don't think God has
I
any.
don't believe God exists in this material plane. Okay.
Yeah. And
What's
I
the
refute
conclusion?
that an infinite regress is possible, because if it can be reduced to a single point and it cannot go any further from that, we cannot rationally say that it can go beyond it.
Rationally say that you can go beyond
It
that.
cannot recess further than that. Like, it cannot recess further than that.
And recess.
Or go back further than that.
Okay. Is that the conclusion of your argument? Is that another premise? I'm a bit lost.
No, this is I'll put one more thing. And if you were to say that it could go before that, that is just an abstract belief, because it's no different than having a religious belief.
Okay. And then what's the conclusion of the argument?
The conclusion is probably point 4. I leave point 4 as a conclusion.
Okay, so premise 1, any material form can be reduced to a single point in a causal chain. Premise 2, I don't believe God exists in this material plane. Premise 3, an infinite regress is impossible because if it can be reduced to a single point and it can't go any further, you cannot rationally say that you can recess further than that. I think you mean regress, but that's fine.
Yeah, regress. Yeah.
Conclusion, if you were to say that you can go before that, it's just an abstract belief. This was supposed to be an argument about it being impossible, right?
Yeah, impossible for an infinite regress.
So
well,
which premise or conclusion gets to the impossibility of an infinite regress?
Wait, could you repeat that? Sorry.
Which premise and conclusion gets to the
premise
impossibility
is that
of an infinite regress? Which one of these is about an infinite regress? Or sorry, which one of these is about the impossibility of an infinite regress?
It cannot be rationally possible since we reduce it to a single point, and there is no observable.
Well, no, I mean, so you say you cannot rationally say that you can recess further than that.
Yeah, regress further.
So
than
are
that.
you saying that that's equivalent to it being impossible?
If we're talking about just pure rational possibility, then yes, it is impossible.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by rational possibility?
Because you could practically say anything is possible.
Do you mean by
Because
logical
the future's
possibility,
yet to be
physical
determined.
possibility, metaphysical possibility? What do you mean?
Yeah. The future's yet
Which
to be
one? Those are all
determined.
different things.
I say a material impossible. Actually, I pick a material impossibility.
Okay, so that's like a physical impossibility. Okay,
Yeah.
so how do you get that? So which law of physics does it violate? Because that's what it means for something to be physically impossible or materially impossible.
Let's see. Material possibility. The idea of an infinite regress for material concepts, the possibility, like in terms of like physics, I'd say it could like violate. God, I've not been focusing my physics. Let me think. It's just no, because it escapes causality, doesn't it? In a sense.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean by it escapes
No,
causality?
because if something's existing infinitely, it has to be like abstract.
Why?
Because like it escapes causality.
I don't know what that means.
There's no cause for infinites. You cannot cause something to infinitely happen.
Yeah, so that would mean that the universe, if the universe has always existed, that would mean that the universe doesn't have a cause. Sure.
I know, but if it was to say that, if we were to say it had like an infinite regression, material concepts. I kind of trap myself in with the physics because, it's kind of because your infinite regress, it models after the conservation of energy, if you think about it. So I thought that was going to be my way out. So let me think.
So why don't I help you out here? So generally speaking, the arguments for, there are arguments that like some philosophers, a few, but not many, that some philosophers will make for infinite regress being impossible, rely on like some sort of vague metaphysical impossibility that they don't usually define in a particularly good way. They just kind of like give examples and kind of try to intuition pump, but it's just not something that is anyone's really ever been able to prove that this is a thing, that infinite regress is impossible. So, and I suspect it's not going to happen on this live.
I know.
So I wouldn't base your argument on infinite regress being impossible.
All right. I suppose, that if we, I mean, I'd like to ask you, if we were to say that infinite regress is possible, I mean, this is just a belief that is unverifiable in any case. Do you not believe that?
It may or may not be verifiable. It depends on what, like, it's certainly not verifiable now. Who knows? Maybe it'll be verifiable in the future with better tech and better understanding of physics. But I mean, yeah, maybe that's the case, that it's not verifiable. But you came up wanting to talk about the infinite regress thing.
Here's my argument. All right.
Okay.
So for an infinite regress in like an abstract concept like maths, we can prove it there are proofs for undefined concepts, but I don't think that you'd be able to prove infinite undefined concepts in material ideas, like not in material
I don't know what you mean
forms.
by undefined concepts.
No, there is a proof. Imagine out there's a proof for like 0/0 being undefined. There's a proof, like, because for something to be infinite, it's undefined.
Well, that's indeterminate, not undefined. But
can those not be used interchangeably?
No, indeterminate means that it can take on multiple values. Undefined means that it's not a real number.
I know, but we cannot do that with material like forms. They are not. They are defined.
Maybe suppose that that's true. What does that have to do with an infinite regress being impossible?
Because an infinite regress cannot be defined, but a material existence can be defined.
You can just define it isomorphic. You could define the timeline as being isomorphic to the real numbers, for example.
I know, but then you're mixing the abstract and the material.
The way that we describe things is with abstract language. I don't know how else we would do that. I don't know how else we would talk about the thing except in terms of the abstract.
No, but this changes because once you define an infinite regress to mathematics, that is not the same as attaching a name to an item. Because attaching a name to an item,
that means.
No, like we have a rock and we have the name rock.
Mm-hmm.
Rock, the name is abstract. The thing itself is real. Yeah.
Sure.
You cannot do that with an infinite regress.
Why not?
And the concept of maths. I'll explain how. Because there's different. The contingency is different in a sense. I'm kind of explaining.
Contingency?
Yeah, because look, let me explain this. Because if you were to get rid of the mathematical concept of it, of like an infinite existence, or like an infinite concept, if you got rid of this abstract concept in maths, or you got rid of maths entirely, would there still be a way to have an infinite regress? No.
Yeah, in the same way that there'd still be a way to have a rock.
No,
each day would have a day before it. No, once you define it to a set of all, I'm forgetting how to like say the argument here. I'm saying that it's the way you're defining your one. It shows it like parallel to maths, but when you're attaching a name to like a rock, it's showing it in like a hierarchical sense. Instead of what's a hierarchical sense? What is the relationship with mathematics here?
The materials at the bottom.
The way that we describe things in physics is with mathematics. The physics things don't stop existing if we don't have mathematics. We just don't have a good way to describe them.
I know, because it's defined hierarchical. It's defined with the physical observation at the bottom, and then this mathematical observation derived from it. You cannot have any physical. You cannot have any mathematical concepts in physics without any prior, physical experiment.
I don't understand how this proves that an infinite regress is impossible.
No, because the way you're defining it with attaching it to all real numbers.
Yeah, I'm saying that that is one way to describe it in a totally well-defined way. You could also describe it in another way, that every day has a day before that. That doesn't require any numbers at all.
Okay. I'm going to leave this argument because I don't want to write about that one. That's interesting.
Okay.
I'll go one more. Is the belief of an infinite regress not a metaphysical belief?
I guess it depends on how you define metaphysical. I mean, it's so, well,
Is it
not
like
even.
this is-
It's a position on a possible outcome or a possible way the universe physically is.
Yeah. So it is like the belief in.
So it's not
Do you not
metaphysical.
see
no.
like there's any similarity between believing in infinite regress and supernatural, as like a supernatural causality? Do you not see there's any difference?
I mean, perhaps there's a similarity in that, like, you think that the God has always existed, and I lean towards the universe having always existed. But like, those are, like, I could say that there's a similarity between like a church and a universe and like a school building because they're both buildings. It's not like a meaningful similarity.
If we like define the universe as infinitely regressing, it starts to adopt the same characteristics as what we believe as the conventional omnipotent figure.
Well, not really, because the universe doesn't have a will. And that's kind of critical for something to be a god.
I personally don't think so, in like my model of how God exists.
Does God have a mind in your view?
No.
Oh. You're an atheist. Get out of here.
I'm not an atheist.
Bro doesn't think God has a mind. God is just like the universe. Like, what? If God doesn't have a mind, then it's not even a being. It's not an agent. That was crazy. Sorry, one sec. Oh, neat. All right, let's bring up another guest. Jesus is real. Can you hear me? Jesus is real. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, that's a child. You can't be here if you're a child. Neo M, can you hear me? Neo?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Great.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Sorry, just one moment. Do you think that there's a God?
Yeah, I'm kind of convinced that the God of the Christian sort of universe exists. Yeah.
You think that the God of the Christian universe exists?
Yeah.
Okay, and what would you say is the most compelling argument or evidence that you could give me that would make me believe the same?
I think I've seen your conversations really with debating on whether something is proof or like that would be 100% evidence, right? So
if something is proof, that would be 100% evidence. I mean, sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm saying if something were to be presented to you that you could not deny, right? That you would have to believe it, right? It would have to be the truth. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would imagine it's on a scale from sorry, I'm not very familiar with all these scientific facts, so I hope you don't mind having sort of a simple conversation, right?
That's fine.
So I believe believing is sort of a scale from 0 to 100, and I would refer to you as being less on the 0 side because you don't
perhaps
believe.
not 0, but maybe like 0.1.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're asking people to convince you, so you sort of have the option. So it's not you don't believe. And I would be more of closer to the 100 side, but
Sure.
not at 100, because it is faith and believing. So I think my argument is to say there are many things that bring me towards the 100, which is sort of like creation when I do look at it, to say that a being, or sort of whatever anyone recognizes as something able to create, not to make, or reproduce, or because any ideas that we have on earth aren't something, I believe they aren't something that's new. We just
You don't think that there are any new ideas on earth?
I mean, I don't think I wouldn't call it that, but to say rather that we can only think of things that exist, rather like gravity, like that already existed. We never made it up, right?
I'm not sure I hold that view.
So you agree? You would think that we create things?
I think that we can have original thoughts. Yeah.
But you can't have thoughts that aren't sort of in the realm of existing, right? So you just
I think that you can have. I think you can. I think that like somebody first thought of a unicorn, and unicorns don't exist.
That already existed, sort of. They had to think of it at some point in time, but someone was going to at some point in time, right?
But
someone had to.
But universes or unicorns don't exist, right? So how
yeah, but the idea of it,
so where did the idea come from if unicorns don't exist?
I'm trying to say that, okay, let's think of it like this. If I was to put a bunch of names of colors on a board, and to think of a color, they wouldn't think of a color that wouldn't exist. You can't think of a color that doesn't exist. You think of colors that do exist, right?
Yeah, that's a separate thing.
Okay, I understand you.
So Neo, because I would like to actually get to the point. What is the argument that you want to present? What is the evidence or the argument or the proof?
The Bible is very reliant with living testimony to say that this is really what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? Instead of an atheist universe, and he made it in perfect being, he created the heavens and the earth and all of that, and that seems to check out, right? Because
is your evidence that the Bible sounds, or like is the argument that the Bible sounds good?
It's more relatable to reality, because could I ask you, can nothing create something?
No, I don't think that that's what happened.
But scientifically, can something come from something that doesn't exist?
Well, scientifically, there's no such thing as something that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as nothing.
Exactly, because it doesn't exist, right?
Well, look. So, is your argument that the Bible sounds good, that it like agrees with your intuitions?
No, because it really relates to what reality is instead of perspectives. Or really, you could say it's a perspective that is based on reality when you look at the Bible itself. You know, despite
there are a lot of things in the Bible that seem completely disconnected from reality.
What would you say are a few?
Well, I don't know what your views are, but I think it's generally completely disconnected from reality to think that it's okay to own slaves. I think it's completely disconnected from reality to think that plants existed before the sun did. I think that it's completely disconnected from reality to think that there was a giant flood and somehow the kangaroos got from Turkey to Australia.
Okay.
There are a lot of parts of the Bible that are just completely disconnected from reality.
I fully understand you. There's some things that I can't even say, wow, that actually happened, or proof that that would happen. I would agree. But also on the end of atheism, I don't think you said that something cannot come from nothing, but yet the Big Bang came from thin air, or
that's not my view.
What is your view, if I may ask?
That it had a cause.
What is the cause?
I don't know.
Of the Big Bang?
I could say inflation, but then you'd ask, what's the cause of inflation? I don't know.
But then it's sort of like, that really that I don't think would you base your whole belief system off something you don't know in the beginning?
I'd rather
I
say
think that
I
is
don't
fair.
know than say I do know something that's false.
Okay, but I think your claim is that you don't believe God exists, right?
Right. I do not believe that God exists.
Well, wouldn't you see that as an incorrect sort of claim? Because you would
No.
have to know everything and search everywhere, and for you to
No, I think that there are
check in
meaningful ways that you can rule out, for example, the Christian God existing.
to rule out, but not say that it doesn't completely, because
No, that's what it means
you
to rule
wouldn't
something
say
out, to say that the Christian God is impossible.
okay, but also you're saying that the claim of being an atheist to say he doesn't exist is
Yes.
based off a few sort of arguments, but not everything coming together. It's not as a complete of a belief, right?
I don't know what you mean by that. Look, if you can rule something out deductively, then that leads me to conclude that such a thing cannot possibly exist. That's
so
just
a God, a creator would be able to create time, a universe, people with thinking thoughts, good or bad, angels, demons, ground, earth, air, a universe a sort of earth that works coherently with each other, a specific race that is made to look right after him, the image, which is supposed to rule over every animal and every being on earth, but is also tempted by the sort of spiritual enemy who comes from beyond.
Yeah, so that
this
God
realm.
doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I'm sort of going on a ramble to say that sort of you can see the relation on Earth, right? You can see it.
Yeah,
it
so
doesn't have to be.
Sure, the people who wrote the story about the God that they thought existed was based on their observations about the Earth. So of course, their observations about the Earth would agree with the God that they created. Really not so surprising. It doesn't make that God exist.
Identifying it with the sort of a story for life and which relates to God, but I can say that if I were to believe this sort of thing to be a reality of truth, as you believe atheism is for our realm of existence, I think it would be more truer than atheism, because it has that sort of, because it has that tangibility in our reality.
Except it gets some things wrong, which means that we can dismiss it. If
Yes,
it gets anything wrong, then we can dismiss it.
I'm not. Yeah, I know it. I don't think anything is going to be 100% proof that we can say, oh no, that isn't. Or ask a Christian, yeah, why did that happen? Or you know what I'm saying? There has to be arguments, as which I tie in back to believing from zero to 100% of belief.
I just don't understand. Given that there are arguments that the Christian God, for example, can't be real, and these are like deductive arguments, these are like demonstrable. These are not just like piece of evidence. This is like proof. I don't care how realistic the Bible sounds.
Yes.
You can prove that it can't be true.
Mm-hmm.
So
would you say Jesus existed?
Yeah, probably.
But I want to say, is it a yes or no? Not. I mean, like, want to leave that to chance.
Probably. Like, you know, he was a mildly notable person. A few historians wrote about him, like, you know, around the same time. And so it seems super plausible, in fact, even likely that he existed. I don't see why Josephus would write about him. I don't see why Tacitus would write about him. But, you know, like, we don't have any archaeological evidence that he actually existed. Like, we don't have his bones, for example. So, you know, we could be wrong about that.
And someone could say, because we don't have his bones, he did resurrect, right?
You could say that, but we wouldn't have any reason to believe it.
I mean, he walked out the grave with 100 guards watching with the big rock in front of him, and no one went to saw where he was. And people...
That's the story that it says in the Bible. You're right. I don't know why I would believe that.
So, I'm trying to sort of point the resemblance to say that this is what happened, and this relates to what the belief is in the book. Wouldn't you sort of believe something that? Okay, if you would disagree, what would that be based on, if I may ask?
That the evidence for the resurrection is very bad, and the claim is astoundingly unlikely given the priors I have about like how the world works. So you have to provide better evidence in order to make me think that such a claim is plausible.
Isn't that so crazy? Because nothing sort of makes sense. We come from a universe that people in the comments, people are saying
nothing makes sense. What? Lots of things make sense.
I'm trying to say that like a lot of the things we can't really rationalize. We come from a universe where it's sort of combusted and resulted in many planets on Earth. We can't explain how that happened.
There's just no combustion involved. Like the Big Bang is pretty well understood.
Sorry. I think I'm lagging a little bit. Eh?
Yeah, it's possible. Neo, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much for being here. Didn't seem like he was really making an argument. Oh, before I bring up the next guy, I should read some super chats because I'm a bit behind. Actually, I'm not that far behind. From Chase. Oh no, I already read that one. I don't know why it's being buggy lately. Okay, never mind. We're good. We're good on super chats. I don't think I missed any. All right. For some reason, the nice guy is not connecting. Let's move on to Sly Gemini. That's a good name. Sly, how's it going?
Hey, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you think that a God exists?
I do, but I don't think of it in the traditional sense, like Bible or Quran type of ways.
Okay,
I do think of it.
Can you give me like 3 or 4 properties that you think this being has?
It's definitely, in the sense, I don't even know how to explain it because I definitely don't have the academic background or verbiage or vocabulary to explain it, but it's more than 3-dimensional. It has to be more than 3-dimensional.
Did it create the
especially
universe?
If we're claiming. I mean, does a tesseract create itself when it's shifting? That's the way I see it. As
does it have a mind?
That's another thing that it's tough to explain, right? The way I see it is it's in a dimensionality where everything is causing on itself, kind of like the infinite regress loop you were talking about, right? It's a loop of things where we're trying to explain it, but it's constantly shifting, and so the explanation is not clear.
I'm gonna let you go because look, like if you can't even explain it to yourself, then surely you're not going to be able to convince me of it.
Hello?
Kubalo, how's it going?
Well, good, man. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share, my perspective on this, man.
Before you start, do you believe in God?
Yeah. Yes, I believe in a God, yeah.
And which God is that?
I just believe there is a God. I don't really believe.
Okay, can you give me 3 or 4 properties that the God that you believe in has?
Yeah, so I believe that the God doesn't abide by the rules that we abide by. And so they have abilities that we don't have, right?
When you say the rules that we abide by, do you mean like the laws of physics or do you mean something else?
The laws of physics, yes.
Okay,
because,
so that's one property. It doesn't obey the laws of physics. Okay.
Yeah, right.
What's the second property?
And I believe that that God is from a universe where something can come from nothing.
Okay.
Right? And then I believe that God is intelligent.
And it has a mind, and it lives in a universe. Does it follow its own laws? Does it have like laws in its own universe?
Yeah. So I think about this way, right? If from in our universe, right? Nothing can something can't come from nothing, right?
Can you answer my question?
Yeah, go ahead. Ask it again.
Does the God that you believe in obey laws in its own universe?
Yes.
Okay.
Because their universe does not have these rules we have. The rules that we have.
How is this inconsistent with atheism?
What do you mean? How is it? Because atheism believes that there is no God.
Yeah, and so the thing that you're describing isn't a God as typically described by atheists. So like you can be an atheist and think that like our universe is being simulated, for example.
Okay, but so you don't believe a god is as in just a creator, right? Yeah, you believe it in as in
no, it's something more than that. It's a mind that exists outside of any sort of physical reality, created the universe, and perhaps has additional properties as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that so you don't think that somebody who created a simulation that we're in is not a god to wouldn't be a god to us?
I don't think that God is a relative term.
So how wouldn't that be a god though? If I created,
because it was born, it will die, it obeys laws. It's not it just doesn't have the properties of being a god.
Oh, okay. So you think that the property has to be like they have to be like immortal and
it should be a metaphysical thing, yeah. So I'm gonna let you go, Kubulo. But thank you for being here. With Eyes Wide Shut sends $2 saying, I just want to say hi, and God is imaginary. Well, thank you, Eyes Wide Shut. All right, let's talk to Pensive. This should be interesting. Pensive, I don't actually think we've met before.
I think we have.
Okay, well, if we did, I apologize for not remembering. By the way, was it you talking to that black chemist the other day?
Yeah, that was me.
It was, I was watching from the shadows, and it was glorious. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Of course. Abraham sent me in there too. Yeah, because he didn't want to give him clout. And I was like, all right.
All right, Pensive, do you believe in a God?
Yes, I do.
All right, and which one would that be?
The Christian God.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what's the argument that you think is the most successful for, I don't know, for atheists like myself?
Yeah, so God's a necessary precondition. No, I'm just kidding. So I like running psychophysical harmony. I think a lot of
can you run it?
Yeah, it's just the original schema that Cutter uses is that E obtains psychophysical harmony, where phenomenal states align with their functional causal roles and are reports in like systematic functional ways, which would include like normative harmony or semantical harmony. On the theistic hypothesis, we have reason to believe that God would ordain these psychophysical laws that realize these particular properties. And on the standard naturalistic account, there's no antecedent reason for these alignments among the many nomologically possible psychophysical pairings. So the probability of given psychophysical harmony is low in the naturalist.
So to be clear, and so I don't interact with the psychophysical harmony stuff a lot because I just don't have a very good, like I hate philosophy of mind stuff. But to be clear, is the argument roughly that there are like certain experiences that we have that correlate very highly with certain physical properties of, say, our brain or something like this?
Yes.
And so the question is why do those experiences correlate with those brain properties?
Yes.
So am I correct in saying that this is, well, it smells like fine-tuning. I know it's not fine-tuning, but it smells like what we're saying is, oh, well, these particular relationships between mental experiences and physical phenomena are rare amongst all of the possible relationships between mental experiences and physical phenomena. Is that roughly it?
Yeah. But also, Cutter in the original paper with Kummer, they also introduced like two forms of harmony. One is like the normative harmony, which is like sort of what you're like going for. But another one is like a semantical type of harmony where the way these psychophysical laws pair brains, or the way they state pair to the brains, dispose the agent to make some sort of experience, right? So like
to make some sort of experience? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so like the experience of like a black impasse next to a white impasse with like the disposition to like report the very structure or something, right? That's sort of the example they give, where they just want to say that these psychophysical laws pair sort of brain states to make some sort of dispositions for agents to do, right?
So I'm a little bit, and I haven't read the original paper, so like you could probably talk around me on this topic, but it seems like this is the kind of thing that, well, like suppose for example that the naturalistic hypothesis were true, right? Then you might say that these relations are quite unexpected. There may have been different relations, but then wouldn't we have just made the same argument about those different relations?
When you say different relations, can you like clarify?
Well, look, so the like any psychophysical harmony that you're describing here, whether it's the semantic or I think you said it was the nomological, right? Normative. Thank you. Whatever these relationships are, it seems like we would have made the exact same argument for any of them that had been realized.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I don't understand. Like, it might be the case that yes, the way that we have psychophysical harmony here now is unexpected, but all possible arrangements are unexpected, and so regardless of the way the world was, we just would have always said that it was unexpected, which means that you were under the naturalistic hypothesis, you were bound to end up in something unexpected.
Well,
am I understanding correctly?
Sure, yeah. But the point of the argument, so in the original paper, Cutter also commits themselves to saying that if you invoke some sort of theism adjacent hypothesis, which would be you don't fully accept God, but you sort of do, maybe it's not naturalistic or it's some anarchism or something, right?
Sure.
The point is that the reason it would even predict it is because it's sort of theism adjacent. They believe there's some property like it. But for your, like what you just asked me, the point of the argument is to show it's like an inference of the best explanation, if you will, is that theism, this would be much more expected under theism relative to what the naturalist would expect, right? So it would be a Bayesian argument, of course, right? And of course, with Bayesian arguments, of course, if the hypothesis is more expected, we have greater credence to accept the hypothesis as true, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's very acceptable for this type of discussion.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm asking is, so consider two possible worlds, and I'm being loose with metaphysical possibility here, but consider two possible worlds: one where we have this kind of psychophysical harmony, and another where we have a different kind of psychophysical harmony. Where we have a different set of relationships, a different set of, semantic or normative relationships between the mental states and the physical states, fine. Would you be making the same argument that, that in the other possible world, would you be saying that one is also more expected under theism than under naturalism?
Yes.
So then it just seems like that the actual nature of these relationships doesn't play a role at all in the how likely it is given theism.
Could you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, sorry, that was probably vague. Roughly what I mean is that if your theism is able to if the argument is consistent with if theism predicts any possible outcome, then it seems like it's not actually making a specific prediction about a specific outcome.
Well, when you say specific outcome, do you mean the sort of harmonious pairings themselves?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I actually don't know how to respond to that because, the one way you could look at it is that, in some sense, we already know these harmonious pairings exist given our experiences over day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And I think that alone is reason to already posit some theistic explanation. It's sort of like fine-tuning in that regard, to be really honest with you. I don't like saying that because I don't know why, but I'm not sure I'm not sure what your objection gets at with the argument.
So
maybe I'm tracking right,
I also could be failing to track here. I don't usually do any sort of philosophy of mind stuff because I find it infinitely dull. But I'm happy to engage. Roughly so I'll give an analogy with fine tuning, and maybe the analogy is not good, so then you can correct it. But roughly the claim is that if you had a hypothesis that let's suppose that the universe wasn't fine-tuned, for example. Suppose that, imagine that you could have changed the way the universe was and life is still possible. If that were the case and you said, well, we see that these constants allow for life, and therefore that leads us to conclude that something must have set these constants to be the way they were. And then I asked, well, if the constants were different, that also would have allowed for life. And you say, yeah, I would have made the same argument then. Then it seems like that the argument that that somehow your explanation better explains why these constants are the way they are Well, it doesn't. If it equally well explains all possible things, then it seems like it doesn't actually explain why they're this way instead of that way. And so similarly, I would say that if I'm understanding the argument that you're proposing correctly, it just seems like if you can explain all possible ways, whether the way that they currently are or whether the way that they could be in some possible world, then it seems like it doesn't actually explain why it's this way rather than some other way.
Okay, I think I get your objection now. So I'll roughly state it. Is it just that given these harmonious pairings we observe in this world, if we can conceive of an equally logically possible world where the phenomenal states pair a little bit differently to the agents, then theism would make a better prediction for the world we in, but it actually doesn't explain another possible world in which the pairings are different. And if I'm saying that it could, then I have no reason to accept theism because the former of the specific hypothesis gets much more weighed out by my ability to say they're all equally real, or they all equally predict under the same scope.
Yeah, I guess, and you're a physicist, right, or a physics grad student?
Yeah.
So I think that that's capturing what I was trying to get at, but I'd put it a different way. If you came up with a hypothesis, just like a particle physics thing, say that your hypothesis says that you have two competing hypotheses. One says that the mass of the up quark is 250 giga-electron volts or something like that. And then the other hypothesis, or let's say that you have one model where you don't have an explanation, you don't have a prediction for the mass of the up quark, and the other model says the mass of the up quark is greater than 0, and then you measure it to be, I don't know, 250 giga-electron volts, whatever it might be. I think it's like 100 or something. It just seems like saying that it being greater than 0 is a very, very weak, is hardly confirmed at all by some specific measurement of the mass of the up quark. It's just like bare minimum, you're just saying like these things exist at all. And so insofar as the psychophysical harmony is concerned, you're just saying the God best explains that there is any sort of psychophysical harmony at all. Sorry, I meant top quark, not up quark. But is that the claim, that a God existing better explains that there's any psychophysical harmony at all, not that it better explains this particular kind of psychophysical harmony?
Yes.
Okay. And so how does naturalism not explain that there's some kind of psychophysical harmony?
Well, let's be clear. Like, what we mean by explain...
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
What we mean by explain, first we would have to lay out like the Bayesian argument, which I don't want to do. I'm assuming you can just do it on your own. I don't really want to lay it out. Okay, perfect. It's just roughly that if we look at the data we're pulling from, like brain states and these functional roles, there's no reason that it over explains the theistic hypothesis better in a way that remains with theoretical virtues intact. So for me, I would say that if we do look at naturalism, there's no, I don't want to say canonical because there's really no first principle way, but I just mean that there's no way that would explain. So, oh my God, I don't know how I want to explain this. It's just that when we look at the evidential force by the Bayes factor from the theistic hypothesis, which is prior free with respect to the top level hypothesis.
Sure.
If we demonstrate that the Bayes factor is much greater than 1, we can just say that, the evidence given psychophysical harmony favors theism. But if I look at the naturalist account, I see no reason as to why I see no explanation that the naturalist could invoke that would greater explain the psychophysical harmony. And I think the most common response that I get, like when I argue this, is they usually pair naturalism with like another philosophy of mind position. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, like naturalism isn't comparable to the kind of theism that you're introducing, so you have to add some additional like axioms, right? Because bare theism doesn't say anything about psychophysical harmony either. There's some desire to create things in a way such and such, blah blah blah. So that's fine though. To if we're talking about philosophy of mind, so having some sort of naturalistic account or some sort of philosophy of mind in addition is fine, right?
Mm-hmm. But you said you're not you don't read about philosophy of mind.
I don't really. I read a book on it that Danny suggested. You know Danny?
Yeah.
So I read a book that Danny suggested, and it was a slog to get through, and it was fine, but it's just It's just so uninteresting to me.
It's just so boring. Yeah,
Like,
that's what I thought.
look, there's a reason I went to grad school for physics and not neuroscience or philosophy.
Yeah,
right?
it gets boring like when you look at like the different forms of physicalism as well. Like you're like, oh, they really say the same thing, but they're just phrased differently, or they deny the gap in a different way.
So, look, all I would say is that it seems like that one could at least propose, if you have some physical account of mind, and you know, perhaps that's the issue. Maybe you're saying that you can't have a physical account of mind, but you know, the physicalist will say that there is a physical account of mind in some way. Then you would expect that there will be some physical relationship between, or that there will be some relationship governed by laws of physics or laws of neuroscience, whatever it might be, between mental states and physical states. And so that would just give you psychophysical harmony, right? Just for free, assuming that you're a physicalist.
Well, so like this is why I came prepared. You know, I precog this type of response to physicalism. You know, I have the argument already laid out against.
All right, what's the argument? Okay, so to be clear, okay, so what you're saying is that physicalism doesn't work. So perhaps there's another form of naturalism that does work, and then the other types of naturalism can't explain it. And even though physicalism could explain it if it worked, it doesn't work. Is that roughly the point?
It's mostly that well, it would depend on the type. It would depend on the physicalism, right? The most common is like type A physicalism.
I have no idea what that is, by the way. And to be clear, I'm no longer calling myself a physicalist just because I haven't seen any good definitions of what it means for something to be physical. So.
Oh, so the type A physicalists just, I'm pretty sure they deny that there isn't a gap, if I remember. Like some explanatory gap, I think.
Sure.
If I remember. But
and to be clear, you mean a gap between mind and brain, say?
Yeah.
Sure.
But that's the most common that's given. And I actually think most type physicalist accounts can give an adequate response to psychophysical harmony, because I just think they're false views, right? I just think the views are false.
Wait, so you think that most type A accounts can give an account of psychophysical harmony or cannot?
Oh, they can, in the sense that they just deny it. I'm pretty sure the type A denies it.
Sure.
But of course, I just think those views are false, right? Obviously.
And so if the psychophysical harmony is, if the strength of the psychophysical harmony is predicated on, say, type A physicalism being false, then A, you would need to show that type A physicalism is false, which fine, maybe we could talk about that. But B, it seems like denying the, it seems like that doesn't therefore get you that naturalism can't provide an explanation. Now, you might say that naturalism hasn't provided a good explanation yet. Is that roughly the claim?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the argument against type A physicalism?
So it's about a 9-premise argument, so you better get the notepad out.
All right,
be really honest with you.
All right. By the way, how are we defining physical?
Man, so I would take physical. Man, this is why I wish you were a physicalist. I would just parrot your definition.
That's the issue. So I like, you know, before like a month ago, I was happy to call myself a physicalist, and I would just say, yeah, physical stuff is stuff that obeys laws of physics. But that's really dissatisfying. And so like I can't in good conscience use that definition when, you know, it doesn't really explain what being physical means.
Okay, so I would take physical to be I would take something physical to be something structural and dynamical that encodes functional facts.
Question. Which of these things don't apply to a Platonic mathematical realm?
Sorry, what?
Which of those features don't apply to a Platonic mathematical realm?
By features, you mean
parts of the definition. Because presumably you don't think that a Platonic mathematical realm is physical using this definition.
No, so I would take that to expand on. I would say that everything that can be exhaustively described by a complete and dynamical world of the physical, whatever that like.
Well, but
given
that's
this
the thing in
definition.
question.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the problem that I have. And you can actually blame Danny for this. Danny basically ran the same line of questioning against me, and I'm like, well, I guess I don't have a good definition.
Yeah, that's why. I usually take type physicalism to be, I define it in a topic neutral way. So it tells you like how things are arranged and interact, not really what they feel like. I find that most people.
But that doesn't describe. So, are we precluding the mind from being one of these things that is arranged and interacts?
No, I would say would include it because or else the thesis fails.
Even under your worldview, the mind is a thing that interacts, right?
Sure.
So,
well, I'm a contemporary dualist.
I mean, my point is if you take any view, if you take the view that a mind even exists, right, then kind of, I guess not by definition, but one of the defining features is that it's capable of interacting, right? It does things, and so it seems like that kind of requires that minds would be physical, using the definition that you've offered.
True. Man, this is why I'm not a physicalist, right? What if I just say it's like something that isn't capable of mental properties?
You're kind of begging the question then that the mind
I know.
but
I don't have a better definition. I don't have a better definition. Or what if I say to call something physical is to say it belongs to like a domain that is exhaustively described by ideal physics?
I don't want to do this to you, but like, look, the point is we don't know what ideal physics looks like, so we can't say what things are exhaustively described by ideal physics. We can't say that, for example, mental states are not part of that.
Well, here, wait. Maybe this will save the position. In the argument, it actually doesn't talk about like physical per se. It talks about really the core thesis of physicalism, that for any complete physical description, I know the words there, and any phenomenal truth, the phenomenal truth is a priori entailed by the physical description. And
yeah, okay.
After, so that's why. And in the argument, I actually like repeat what I said, that a complete physical truth states only the structural and functional facts, right? But there was some pushback of what that even means, right?
Well, yeah. Does that include mental facts, right?
Mm-hmm. Sorry. I would say that under the type A thesis, I think it would entail mental facts, because presumably the type A wants to explain what those are.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So I would say, yeah, it would include those things. So P1 would be, if type A physicalism is true, then for any complete physical description, P, and any phenomenal truth, Q, Q is a priori entailed by P. Premise 2 is a complete physical description, P, states only structural and functional facts. Premise 3 is, if a truth Q is a priori entailed by a description that is wholly structural and functional, then the concepts figuring in Q are analytically equivalent to a topic neutral structural functional concept. Yeah, it's a lot.
Topic neutral structural, sorry?
Functional concept.
Topic neutral functional concept.
Yes. Premise 4 is if a concept is transparent or essence revealing by acquaintance, then is not analytically equivalent to any topic neutral structural functional concept. And we got 5 more premises. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Premise 5 is that phenomenal concepts are transparent in essence revealing by acquaintance.
Transparent and essence revealing?
Yes.
Okay.
And then premise 6 is therefore no phenomenal truth Q is a priori entailed by a complete physical description.
Sure.
Okay. Now the next one's very simple. It's just a modus tollens given these premises now.
Sure.
So if type A physicalism is true, then Q is a priori entailed by P. Premise 9 is Q is not a priori entailed by P. Oh, sorry. Premise 8, Q is not a priori entailed by P. Therefore, type A physicalism is false.
Sure.
No, that's the complete argument.
All right, let's talk about this. So, I mean, there's a lot to go here, and maybe this is probably the right place to do it, although I do want to have one guest after you, and I have 45 minutes, so we'll talk about the argument and then call it there. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so first I want to ask about premise 2. I'm not necessarily saying that premise 2 is false, but when we say structural and functional facts, it seems like, would you describe something like the electron has negative charge, a certain amount of negative charge, would you call that a structural and functional fact?
I would say yeah.
In what way?
Well, if we take, so I would say that it's functional in the regard that if we look at the standard model, for example, right? It tells us about a specific property of the electron, and I think properties can be, like, some further argumentation can be arise that they are some sense equivalent to a structure in the sense that they encode more about the structure.
Well, maybe we disagree on what the word structural means here, so I'll need you the definition that you're using. When I think of structural, I think of like relational, like internal relational facts. So, you know, you might say that like the structure of the ice cube, a structural fact about the ice cube is that it takes on a certain crystalline arrangement, or a cubic, I don't know, whatever H2O does, you get some sort of crystalline arrangement of molecules. And that would be a fact about like the structure of how the thing is internally related to itself. Is that the kind of sense that you mean for structural, or do you mean some other sense?
I actually would agree that it's relational, right?
Is it internal relational, or does it also include external relations?
I would say it would also include internal and external relations.
So you would say that a fact is structural if it is accounted for by relationships between. A fact about something is structural if it is accounted for by a complete description of relations, both of the thing or of the parts of the thing within itself, or of the thing with other things.
Yeah, I like the first one a lot more, because in this specific premise, it's to specify what kind of information like a purely physical description could in principle contain, right?
Well,
Under
because
the type A.
It seems like yeah, so if we said, for example, that, I don't know, the number 17 is prime. Now, obviously, like, we're not gonna, this isn't a physical fact, but would you say that this is a structural fact, a functional fact, or is there another kind of fact about the number 17 that it being prime is that kind of fact?
Well, I would say it's relational to like sort of the mathematical axioms that are employed
Yeah,
in the background.
definitely it is. So you would say that like calling the number 17 prime, you would say that that's like a structural fact.
I would say so.
Okay, great. And so by functional fact, do you mean the things that it does in relation to other things, perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
And so then we would say that an electron has negative charge. Okay. So this is an interesting question then. So now an electron doesn't really have internal structural relations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's something that we have to. Do you think that? Do you take it that the mathematical description of, say, an electron is what the electron is, or do you say that these are merely descriptions of the thing?
I would say they're just like, I wouldn't say that.
An electron is not the Poincare group that's imposed by the symmetry group of a Lorentz group.
I wouldn't say all that, right? I would say that it is a
It's like a thing, and it has certain properties, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, so then it seems strange to me, like at least in principle, one could have an electron in an otherwise empty universe, and it would seem strange to me that then we would be saying that the electron having charge is structural in that it doesn't really have relations with anything, it doesn't do anything to anything. But it would be bizarre to say that it can't have charge in that then, right?
Okay, so then I would employ like functional facts, like in conjunction with the structural fact. So I think a functional fact would specify how a system would causally interact or contribute to behavior, right? So like this neural pattern causes this motor function or something.
Okay, so I think that I could probably buy P2. I'm still a little bit weary because it seems like there are some kinds of facts that, I don't know, like property facts that are intrinsic to the thing that are not, like you understand that it feels like there's something missing here because structure and function seem like they're not capturing just intrinsic properties of a thing.
What about dynamical? So like how those structures would change according to like
But even then,
laws
that
or
won't
something.
capture intrinsic properties, right?
When you say intrinsic properties,
like the mass of the electron, the spin of the electron, the charge of the electron. These are facts about the electron, but they don't seem like and maybe there's just maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe there is a correct word. Maybe the correct word is structural, or maybe it's functional or something. Now, of course, you can define these in relation to the way that they affect the way the electron behaves. For example, you could say that the electron moves at such and such a speed when it's given such and such a momentum because it has such and such a mass, and so you can, give a functional definition, I guess, there. But that seems it's missing the intrinsic quality of these properties. To be clear, I know that electrons intrinsically don't have mass, that is the Higgs mechanism, but for the sake of
I
argument,
was actually thinking I was about to say, I was like, well, maybe a little controversial here, but I would say that.
But there are ways that you can have a well-defined fermion with an intrinsic mass that doesn't come from a Higgs mechanism. So just imagine that we're doing or imagine that we're doing like scalar QED or something like this, right?
I would say that. Okay, maybe a little more controversial. I would say that physics, idly in its state right now, does not include functional, or it doesn't include intrinsic facts. I would say it only specifies relations between things.
Yeah,
so
that is controversial, right?
Yeah, that's my grad educated opinion.
I mean, like, look, so I'm actually pretty agnostic about this. I tend to not have a very strong opinion about like what the nature of properties are, what the nature of substance is. I'm generally pretty agnostic because I don't think that any of the arguments are sufficiently strong to overcome the objections. But okay, so we can take that. We can suppose that physics is essentially relational in nature, and so then you end up with strictly functional and structural facts. Okay, fine. And so okay, so I think premise 2. We can grant it for the sake of argument. That's fine. Then we say if a truth Q is a priori entailed by a description that is wholly structural and functional, then the concepts figuring in Q are analytically equivalent to a topic neutral functional concept. You'll have to define what you mean by topic neutral here.
Okay, so what I mean by topic neutral is it does not presuppose or commit to any particular kind of subject matter. It's formally or functionally defined and can be applied to any domain. Right. I stole this from this word from Gilbert Ryle. He would say.
So how is a concept not related? I don't understand how a topic can even in principle be topic neutral then. Concept seems like it applies to a specific thing.
So in premise 3, the topic neutral means the concept used in the functional explanation, so the one that talks about structure or whatever. That is meant without implying what it's like to instantiate those particular things. Like, for example, like
okay. So you could talk about like the amount of something, but like that doesn't tell you anything about what the somethings are. Something like that.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's. Okay. So there is some. You use the word what it's meant or what it's like to instantiate such a thing. Do you mean the subject that you're applying the concept to, or do you mean like some deeper sense of like, in the sense of like what it's like to be a rock?
The former.
Okay.
Like if
that's fine.
Like for example, like we cannot derive a concept that presupposes a kind of like subject matter like conscious experience from a vocabulary that is neutral about those things.
Repeat that.
I can give like a better example.
Please.
So like there exists a system that discriminates between 65 nanometers and 48 nanometer wavelengths and behave accordingly. That would be entirely functional and structural because it can describe a machine or person. But a non-topic neutral phenomenal truth would be like, there is something it's like to see red. So that's a mental commitment and it specifies a type of conscious experience. So even if the structural description is complete, like there exists a system that discriminates between blah, 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 it wouldn't a priori entail the phenomenal fact because it's topic neutral with respect to the experience.
So it seems like you're smuggling in, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you're smuggling in the claim that there is no way that you can functionally or structurally explain what it's like to have something, what it's like to have some feature.
Well, that's precisely like the conceptual gap with type A physicalism.
Doesn't type A physicalism reject that there's a gap?
Yes.
So then they would say that they would reject premise 3.
Well, of course they would, right? They want to reject any of the premise of the argument, right?
Well, no, typically, I mean, it just seems like like if you're trying to make an argument that that type A physicalism is false, then you should. I mean, like, and you know, you can make whatever arguments you want, but if you're trying to make the argument that type A physicalism is false, then a successful argument is an argument that all of the premises are things that a type A physicalist would agree to.
Well, here, when I made this argument, it was more so in mind with like the structural realist with premise 2 and 3. But I think the premise 3 is precisely what the conceptual gap gets at. And of course they want to deny, but it's still an issue with the worldview, right? I think holding the view accountable to the issues that it's constrained by is very useful.
Well, it just doesn't seem clear to me that this is an issue. Like what is the issue with rejecting premise 3?
Like what do you mean?
I mean, like the point is that if what you want to say is that it reveals the issue with type A physicalism, say they reject premise 3, then generally that means that there's some bullet that they would have to bite by accepting it, or they would have to, or there'd be some counterintuitive feature of the world that they'd have to accept that they wouldn't want to, some cost, right? So what's the cost if they reject it?
Yeah. So if then they will deny some sort of conceptual transparency, and it also would. Premise 3 is linked to premise 2 and 1, right? Mm-hmm. So presumably if they deny premise 3, they're sort of like biting the bullet on premise 1 and 2. Their worldview wouldn't be aligned with what we mean per se by type A physicalism. Because there's
that's one of the things in question, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, too. Yeah, we know
we already had that part of the conversation.
Yeah, but it's more so that the derivability implies some analytical equivalence at the level meaning. So like,
yeah, and I mean that's probably. I mean, like, okay, there is a question to be said of what it means for concepts to be analytically equivalent. So if you're a physicalist, maybe you take the view that like these structural and functional facts are like physical things and they're not concepts. And then it doesn't make sense to say that a physical thing or like a physical property is analytically equivalent to a concept. And so like then they might just say, oh, well, you're making a category error. There are no concepts. There are only physical things.
Oh, well then, interestingly enough, then I think that commits them to saying that you can get a priori from physical descriptions to phenomenal truths without phenomenal concepts being analytically reducible, which I think is even worse, because then they would presumably deny the sort of like equivalence I draw from premise 2 and 1 together, because then they would be like some sort of weird theoretical identity, right? And one, you lose the analytic transparency. So if you deny that a priori entailment requires analytical reduction, you one, weaken the view that you hold to. So I think this would collapse into type B, where entailment is a priori, right? You also
I mean, there's a question about what entailment is too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the I'm not sure what the physicalist view is on what entailment is. Again, like a lot of this stuff about and I'm reading another book on this actually, about, you know, what things like what is a truth maker and all of that sort of lovely stuff, like ontological stuff. It's not clear to me that there's good answers to these questions.
Well, that's why you got to be a deflationist about truth. You would say truth is, you say truth is that of which satisfies a particular schema, right?
There you go. That's the right answer. So I'll keep this up. We should. Are you on Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, we should continue this conversation. I'm going to let you go because I only have half an hour left, and I want to talk to somebody else. Is that fair?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Pensive. It was good to meet you again.
It was good to meet you too.
Take care.
You too.
Chill guy. Interesting conversation. I'll think about this some more. And like again, I'm not really convinced that there's good ways to even define physicalism. So like this, maybe there's some issues here. And look, my experiences with physics papers and math papers, the reason why math papers in general are so long, they're so much longer than physics papers generally, is because you have to be very, very detailed about how you define things. And if you're making an analytic argument like this, the kind of argument that he was making, that's like an entire philosophy paper, right? Because you have to make sure that you define all of your terms perfectly, and you have to define all of the appropriate relationships, and you have to prove various theorems and so on. So like, this is an involved thing, right? But I mean, it's an interesting argument. I'd like to pull it apart a little bit more and see what these words mean, see what's kind of implied. But anyway, let us talk to J Sky. Oh, did I miss a super chat? I may have missed super chats. All right, let's read some super chats really quick. J Sky, can you give me just a minute? I want to make sure that I didn't miss any super chats. It looks like there's one oh wait. From KCJ Bomber, we have $10 saying, the aliens are us. We left thousands of years ago, and the reason we can't come back is gravity. We would be crushed. Our bones and be crushed. Our blood would pool. Okay. We have $10 from, it's the same guy. And then $5 from Nathan. I tried to call in, but your call-in link makes my internet drop out. That's strange. It shouldn't. Anyway, J Sky, how's it going?
Hey. Hello?
Howdy. Do you believe in God, J Sky?
I believe in the same God that Benjamin Franklin did.
Okay, and that would be?
He basically believed that there was a God, but it was a God not concerned in the affairs of humans or anything in the universe, more like a scientist.
Okay, and why would I think that this being exists?
Because there's really no way of knowing if it does unless we look for it.
Okay. So why would I think that it exists?
Oh man, I guess I don't really have a strong argument for that. But I guess Oh, yeah. I don't really have a strong argument for it. I just think it's really unknowable.
Okay,
Like
if it's
if there
unknowable, then it
is,
doesn't seem like there's a good reason to believe it exists.
I mean, I guess you can say that. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I
Okay.
guess I just really thought about what Carl Sagan used to say when he used to say that we don't know if a God exists, but we should, if we do, we should just look for it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
so as somebody who believes in God, I would have hoped that you would have looked for it, and then you could give me the argument, the evidence.
that's the thing. That's the thing, man. I feel like taking on something like that would take an enormous amount of effort and cooperation on humans' part.
It's almost
And
like humans have been doing that for thousands of years and haven't made much progress.
that's right, we haven't. And I think the only way that we're ever going to get to a point where we're even close would be with way better technology, which